Beginning with a gentle golden wind and light rain, the master of ceremonies, with a single stroke, surprises the world. This video is purely for entertainment, and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting, and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 626. The master is always the master, and those who are disloyal will die. On a tall building, Chen and Yanshizan stood holding a long sword. Their eyes were fixed on the street, where Zeman was walking step by step. The pace was neither slow nor fast. "You still know brother Zeman?" Yanshizan said as he looked at Zeman walking on the street. "Zibing alone is not worth his dispatch. He just wants to see other masters in the capital." Compared with Chen and Yanshizan, Zeman is more loyal to the way of swordsmanship and always regards the way of swordsmanship as the highest pursuit of life. Chen has transcendent swordsmanship, but he has other thoughts in his heart. Although he has no other thoughts in this life, he still cannot reach the pursuit of swordsmanship like Zeman. Yanshizan's swordsmanship is to fight with Ziziafeng, the emperor of swordsmanship. His swordsmanship is not as pure as Zeman. To be honest, killing Zibing and staying in the capital Duan Xian'ai and Liu Sheng Piaoxu can do it. But Zeman took action. So Chen knew Zeman intention. "Come with Yanshizan." The three great sword masters, no matter how strong the opponent is, they can still leave if they are defeated. They will not underestimate the masters in the capital. At this time, in the palace, in a large room, Cheng, wearing a purple unique python robe, was sitting cross-legged. A feminine energy was constantly running in his body, and a cold air was diffused between his inhalation and exhalation. The surrounding air formed frost under this energy. After a while, Cheng finished his work, and the surrounding cold air quickly gathered towards his body. After tidying up, Cheng stepped out of the room, and came to the hall. A man in black was waiting here respectfully. "Wait for me here." "What's the matter?" Cheng looked at the man in black and said, "Foster father, I just got the news that a sword master named Zeman appeared in the Qinglang Society, and he killed Zibing, the master of Zifu." The man in black said, "What do you think?" Cheng looked at the man in black, and said with his eyes rolling, "Yanshizan of the Qinglang Society participated in the siege and killing of Emperor Wu Hao. Now Zeman has even broken into the Z family and killed the head of the Z family. The Xianjian division, or the Zenfu division, should come forward to siege and kill the people of the Qinglang Society. Father, I would like to ask for your approval to lead people to siege and kill Zeman." The man in black bowed and said, "Are you still thinking about revenge for Lan Jiacheng? You want to use the Qinglang Society's affairs to avenge Her Royal Highness the Princess and cause a conflict between Her Royal Highness the Princess and the Qinglang Society, or to use this to cause a conflict between me and Her Royal Highness?" Cheng's eyes emitted a cold light and shot at the man in black. "Foster father, I'm unwilling to give up. I just want Her Royal Highness the Princess to pay a little price. Please help me." The man in black quickly knelt on the ground and begged, "Lan Jiacheng is already dead. Are you trying to follow in his footsteps?" Cheng stepped in front of the man in black and said, "Please help me." The man in black continued to kneel and said, "In that case, I will grant you your wish." Cheng said in a deep voice, "Thank you, foster father." The kneeling man in black looked up with joy upon hearing this. But at this time, Cheng's palms became claws, and he grabbed down with one claw, and his sharp 5 fingers directly pierced through the other's head. For a moment, red and white colors overflowed from his fingers. "Becoming Lan Jiacheng's mistress, you have forgotten who you are, and what your identity is. What's the point of keeping you? Remember I told you that the master is always the master. Don't have two minds. I gave you the opportunity, but you don't cherish it, so I can only send you on your way," Cheng said in a cold voice. Then he pulled his fingers out of the other's head. "Someone come." A figure walked in from outside the house and glanced at the man in black who was lying on the ground with an unwilling look in his eyes. He sighed in his heart. He knew the purpose of the man in black coming here. He also persuaded the other party. King Chen was appointed by His Majesty himself as the head of the Xianjian division. This is what His Majesty meant. He was not appointed by anyone else. As the chief of the 3 eunuchs in the palace, He was absolutely loyal to his majesty and absolutely obedient. His adoptive father would not tolerate anything that violated his majesty's will. Dispose of his body and bury it with Lan Jiacheng. It can be regarded as my fulfillment of him. You take over his affairs. And when Zeman Chuksu appears, the three great warlords should take action. The people from the Zenfu division will also be dispatched. Keep an eye on them and record all the situations in detail for me, Ling Cheng ordered. His Majesty had always wanted Princess Mirren to contact the Qinglang Society to understand this Qinglang Society, but Princess Mirren did not take any action. However, he found out a little information about Lan Jiacheng's death. The person who killed Lan Jiacheng was not sent by the Mirren family. If it was not sent by the Mirren family, it could only be someone from the Qinglang Society. It should be Princess Mirren who secretly contacted the Qinglang Society to kill Lan Jiacheng. Yes, the person brought the body out. The house returned to calm. Ling Cheng did not stay in the hall, but returned to a study. His eyes fell on several secret letters on the desk. On the far right was Xian'ai Pavilion, followed by Qinglang Society, and the third was the Evil Alliance, the Nether Elm, Yama Palace, etc. Ling Cheng accepted the position of Deputy Director of the Xianjian Division. He looked through all the forces that Lan Jiacheng was concerned about. Among these forces, some forces need to be surrounded and suppressed. Qinglang Society, the killer organization, although there is a young dragon leader, who is the leader of the Shan Gate in Lingnan County, but the others are unknown. His Majesty meant to let Mirren King-Chen have more contact with Qinglang Society. What's more, Shan Dingong, a giant in the Ministry of Personnel, has secretly left the capital and went to the 9 northern counties. At that time, there will definitely be a conflict with Qinglang Society, so it is not his target. Xian'ai Pavilion, East Pavilion. Kunlun has recently gathered a group of people to surround and kill Xian'ai Pavilion, East Pavilion. I believe that this Xian'ai Pavilion, East Pavilion will no longer exist, so it is not his target either. Evil Alliance, the force that Master Zhu personally pays attention to, does not need him to move. His eyes fell on the Netherworld and Yama Palace. Yama Palace has a mysterious whereabouts. It is rumored that there are 18 people, known as the 18 Yamas, who have been active in the northwest region and killed all the masters of the righteous way. The specific reason is unknown. The whereabouts are uncertain, which means that it is impossible to find it, so we can only give up. Finally, it fell on the Netherworld. Netherworld. This force appeared in the Anbei area close to the northwest region. They worship a nether god and now vaguely want to include all the rivers and lakes in Anbei into the Netherworld. Report to Master Zhu first. Eradicate this Netherworld. After Ling Cheng finished speaking, he picked up the secret letter of the Netherworld and went deep into the palace. At the same time, King Wu Hao, one of the 3 great warlords, appeared in front of Zeman Chuksu. Blocked Zeman Chuksu's way forward. King Lang Hu, Zeman Chuksu. King Wu Hao looked at Zeman Chuksu and said, yes. Zeman Chuksu replied coldly. How arrogant. Seeing Zeman Chuksu's expression unchanged and his cold voice, King Wu Hao's originally jade-like face was filled with gloom. Chapter 627, Divine Power, Heavenly Tiger Mace, breaking the sky with one sword. Your Excellency blocked my way just to say this, so please get out of the way, Zeman Chuksu said coldly. Hearing Zeman Chuksu's words, King Wu Hao's gloomy face became even uglier. He didn't expect that a killer would dare to ignore him like this. He is King Wu Hao, one of the 4 great war marquesses. Although Emperor Wu Hao is recognized as the first war marquess, they can become one of the 4 great war marquesses with extraordinary strength and ability. A killer from the Qinglang Society actually ignored him. King Wu Hao. How could he not be angry? Zeman Chuksu, your Qinglang Society killed people in the capital for no reason, and you just want to leave like this. Do you think the capital is other places? King Wu Hao suppressed his anger and said coldly. Killers only kill people on mission. Zeman Chuksu said simply. After the Great Zhao dynasty unified the world, it did not ban martial arts, but let its rivers and lakes develop on their own. In recent years, the constraints have been reduced. Now in the entire Great Zhao dynasty, the rivers and lakes have become the hegemons of one side, and they have the power to challenge the local government. The capital has been stable before. However, in recent years, some forces have entered the capital, and with the 9 princes of the capital fighting for power, the capital's control over the martial arts world has also become relaxed. Emperor Wu Hao died tragically. As war causes, they went to see the 3 giants of the military. But the 3 giants of the military said that before His Majesty went into seclusion, he said that the affairs of the martial arts world were under the jurisdiction of the Zenfu division. If the Zenfu division could not handle it, then it was a matter of the martial arts world. That is, let them handle it on their own. His Majesty was in seclusion. They could not see His Majesty. They could only unite the ministers in the court and prepare to raise this matter when the 9 emperors met. However, the meeting of the 9 emperors had to be postponed because the eldest prince was in seclusion. This made King Wu Hao and others very frustrated. So when they knew that Zeman Chuksu of the Kingdom Hu appeared, the 3 war causes came after hearing the news. King Wu Hao's mansion was the closest to here, so he came first. He wanted to get the whereabouts of Yan Shizhen from Zeman Chuksu's mouth. Although Emperor Wu Hao's head was cut off by someone, it was Yan Shizhen who made the final blow. So Yan Shizhen must be left behind to sacrifice to Emperor Wu Hao. You Jianghu people are too presumptuous. I want to see what you can do. King Wu Hao's jade-like face turned cold, and his eyes stared at Zeman Chuksu. He waved his palm and a green light slid down from his right hand. It was a bronze mace. Although King Wu Hao looked like a jade, he had considerable strength. Among the 4 great warlords, he used bronze maces as weapons. He did not underestimate Zeman Chuksu. The swordsmanship of the opponent was very strong. He might not be able to defeat the opponent, but he did not need to defeat the opponent. The other 2 warlords should have arrived. One of the 4 warlords had gone, so the 3 warlords had formed an alliance at this moment, and the city was united. At this time, on the high building, Yan Shizhen looked at the situation of the 2 parties and said, "This King Wu Hao is very powerful. Let's not let others disturb their battle. I'll stop Zhang Wu Hao." After saying that, Yan Shizhen's figure turned into a residual shadow and rushed away. Yi Gucheng, who was standing aside, also followed. He wanted to stop Yu Wu Hao, one of the 3 great war causes, and prevent them from disturbing Zeman Chuksu's battle. At this moment, many warriors from various forces gathered on the side. This Zeman Chuksu doesn't look like a killer. How can a killer be so upright? One person said in a low voice. Maybe Zeman Chuksu is very confident in himself, so he is like this, said someone on the side. Confidence, even if he gets away in front of King Wu Hao, other war causes will come, not to mention that the people of the Zenfu division are not jealous. One person said. The opponent's strength is not simple, and he must have the confidence to dare to do this. This person has a sharp sword intent and cold and ruthless eyes. He is definitely a master at the peak of the sword. Such a person must have a trump card. Some warriors can sense the sharp sword energy on Zeman Chuksu. Compared with King Wu Hao, who is familiar to the public, more people are commenting on Zeman Chuksu who just appeared. At this time, King Wu Hao, with a bronze mace in his hand, burst out with a fierce aura. The fierce aura is like a tiger, pressing towards Zeman Chuksu with violent power. Zeman Chuksu's sword energy burst out, resisting this momentum. His eyes also became sharp. This King Wu Hao's strength is not simple. Divine power, Xiansha Tiger Mace. King Wu Hao's cold voice appeared in everyone's ears. Compared with other people, as the overlord of the battlefield, King Wu Hao must first suppress the opponent in momentum and do his best as soon as he makes a move. Without any reservation, the bronze mace was raised, and the terrifying murderous aura condensed on the bronze mace, and a violent tiger was formed. Looking at the murderous aura bursting out of the opponent's hand, Zeman Chuksu's eyes were full of surprise. Only by fighting with such a strong man can you improve your swordsmanship. Zeman Chuksu, but he has dedicated his whole life to swordsmanship. Sword power. One sword breaks the sky. After Zeman Chuksu entered this world, his only wish was to break the gate of heaven with one sword, so he created the divine power. One sword breaks the sky, and the sword comes out. The world suddenly loses its color. The huge sword energy condensed in the air, like a giant pillar supporting the sky. The breath emanating from it made people palpitate. For a moment, on one side, the fierce aura was diffused, and a tiger took shape and pounced. On the other side, the sword energy was like a pillar, extremely sharp. Before the two forces came into contact, the sky and the earth were surging, forming a storm. The eyes of the people watching the battle were horrified. Boom. The two people attacked at the same time. The sword light collided with the tiger's claws. The tiger was cut by the sword energy and swept towards him. King Wu Hao spit out a mouthful of blood. A light flashed in his eyes, and he shouted in a low voice, "Tiger Golden Ganki." A violent Ganki appeared around him. The sword energy split into the Ganki, shattered the Ganki, but it was blocked by the bronze mace in his hand, and his body was shaken away. He looked at Zemanchuksu with horror. His divine momentum was shattered by the opponent's sword. It also split his Ganki. If it weren't for the bronze mace to resist, he would probably be seriously injured by the opponent's sword. Kill you. Zemanchuksu didn't kill the opponent with one sword, but his body didn't slow down at all. He moved his feet and his body instantly turned into a residual shadow and went towards the opponent. The long sword in his hand slashed out again. "You don't have the qualifications to kill me." Although the situation was critical, King Wu Hao was the war marquis of the empire. How could he not have any other means? A fierce look burst out in his eyes. A mouthful of blood sprayed on the bronze mace in his hand. The bronze mace quickly absorbed his blood. Tiger roar, explosion. The true energy in his body quickly poured into the bronze mace. With the burst of true energy, a tiger rushed out of the bronze mace. As the tiger came out, it roared and formed a terrifying air wave. And the sharp claws burst out a terrifying air force and slashed towards the sword light. Zemanchuksu was slashed out with a sword, and his body was repelled by this air wave. The burst of sword energy was also blocked. This weapon is not ordinary. It seems this is your last resort. Zemanchuksu looked at King Wu Hao and said coldly. Chapter 628. King Wu Hao is defeated. Zemanchuksu becomes famous in the capital. It's the last resort, but it's also the strongest resort. The bronze mace in the hand of King Wu Hao chopped out instantly, and chopped several times in a row. The dazzling black light attacked Zemanchuksu like a meteor shower. Zemanchuksu chopped out with the long sword in his hand. Clang, clang. The sound of metal interlacing broke out. The long sword and the bronze mace kept colliding, and a series of sparks burst out. All this was as fast as lightning. After the attack, King Wu Hao's figure turned into a faint light, and kept approaching Zemanchuksu. He wanted to use the power of the bronze mace in his hand to suppress Zemanchuksu's sword energy, and thus suppress Zemanchuksu. For a while, the sword light and the mace light kept colliding, bursting out with sky-high light. The surrounding air was all dispersed by this light, and the ground where they fought was even more broken, and dust flew. Bang! The figures of both sides fell. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of King Wu Hao's mouth, but his eyes became more fierce. He looked at Zemanchuksu and said coldly, "You take such good care of your sword and use your own sword energy to protect the long sword, but you won't be able to hold on for long." Zemanchuksu didn't say anything, but took a step forward and slashed with the long sword in his hand. The speed was too fast, and it collided with the air and made a sharp whistling sound. The sharp sword energy turned into a cold light and slashed towards the opponent. The ripples of the sword energy spread in all directions, and the rocks paved on the street gradually cracked under these ripples. The cold light flashed in the eyes of King Wu Hao, and the bronze mace in his right hand slashed again, facing the sword light. The bronze mace collided with the sword energy. A terrifying wave of air was emitted. Both of them were shocked and retreated. Boom. The sword energy in Zemanchuksu's body rushed into the long sword frantically. The sword energy was crisscrossed on the long sword. Although his long sword was not ordinary, it was still far from the bronze mace of King Wu Hao. So in order to protect his long sword from being chopped into pieces, he used his own sword energy to wrap the long sword. But Zemanchuksu didn't like being in a passive situation, so he took the initiative. Divine power, a sword breaks the sky. The sword light burst out, emitting a dazzling light. It is impossible to open your eyes. King Wu Hao's face condensed. All the strength of the body poured into the bronze mace, and his own divine power was also activated to cooperate with the bronze mace. With the blessing of the two forces, a terrifying murderous aura burst out from the bronze mace, and the murderous aura surged like waves. Ding. The two forces collided. Zeman Chuksu only felt a strong recoil force coming from the long sword in his hand, and his body moved back several steps before he stabilized his body. On the other side, King Wu Hao's body also retreated several steps, and a recoil force surged from his arm. A little numb, the right hand holding the bronze mace was a little unstable. For a moment, the bronze mace fell to the ground. He raised his hand to grab the bronze mace back, but at this moment, Zeman Chuksu leaped out, slashing with the long sword in his hand, aiming directly at King Wu Hao. The brilliant sword light, like the bright stars in the sky, it passed by. Boom. A terrifying aura burst out from King Wu Hao's body, trying to resist the sword force. But the sword force penetrated the aura and slashed at King Wu Hao's body. Puff. A stream of blood gushed out from King Wu Hao's body, and gurgling blood spurted out from the wound. I didn't expect to lose, King Wu Hao said, half kneeling on the ground. There was no reluctance in his eyes. Zeman Chuksu was indeed stronger than him. King Wu Hao lost. The bronze mace of King Wu Hao was a weapon-level weapon given to him by His Majesty. It can burst out power beyond its own, but I didn't expect to lose to Zeman Chuksu. Some people saw the horror on the face of King Wu Hao lying on the ground. No one is paying to kill you. This time, this bronze mace is the price. When Zeman Chuksu spoke, he raised his hand, grabbed the bronze mace in his hand, turned around and left quickly. When he left, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. King Wu Hao's strength is not as good as his, but the opponent's divine power with the help of the bronze mace is not weaker than his. If the opponent's hand is not unstable, he was thinking about taking back the bronze mace. Zeman Chuksu wanted to defeat him, and he had to fight for a while. At this moment, Zeman Chuksu felt very happy. He let out a long roar, jumped, and turned into a white shadow and disappeared quickly. Looking at the disappearing Zeman Chuksu, the half-kneeling King Wu Hao's eyes turned black and fainted on the ground. On the other side, Zhang Wu Hao was locked by a terrifying sword energy, and his fierce aura formed a gang energy, and his eyes swept around fiercely. Just now when he was on his way, he found that he was locked by a sword energy. This sword energy is very terrifying. So he stopped and resisted this sword energy. But the opponent's sword energy was condensed but not released. So he didn't dare to move. When the long whistle sounded, the sword energy that locked him disappeared instantly. On the other side, Yu Wu Hao was in the same situation. He was locked by the sword energy. But in the end, he suddenly put away his sword and disappeared. The two people's faces changed, and they quickly went forward. When the two arrived, they saw King Wu Hao lying on the ground, and their expressions changed. What's going on? Zhang Wu Hao raised his palm, grabbed a warrior and asked. King, Zeman Chuksu of the Qinglang Society defeated King Wu Hao, but did not kill King Wu Hao. King Wu Hao should just be unconscious. The captured person stuttered. Bang. While speaking, he was thrown aside by Zhang Wu Hao. Yu Wu Hao appeared beside King Wu Hao here, checking Wu Hao's injuries. He is not dead, but unconscious. I have stopped bleeding from the wound. After a period of recovery, he will be fine. However, this person's sword energy is sharp, and his sword cultivation is no worse than that of the person who stopped me. You were also stopped by a swordsman, and so was I. And I feel that the person who stopped me should be Yan Shizhen from the Qinglang Club. I have felt that sword intent in Emperor Wu Hao. Zhang Wu Hao said solemnly. 3 sword masters. The Qinglang Club has 3 sword masters who are concentrating in the sea. Yu Wu Hao said in a deep voice. Take King Wu Hao back first. The other party did not kill King Wu Hao this time. We are grateful, and will withdraw the pursuit of Yan Shizhen from the Qinglang Club. Yu Wu Hao then said. Zeman Chuksu has the ability to kill King Wu Hao, but he did not. The other party gave in. They did not need to fight to the death with the other party. The other party is just a killer who kills people for money. If they want revenge, they will find the person who offered the reward to Emperor Wu Hao. Zhang Wu Hao hugged King Wu Hao and turned away. For a while, the battle here ended. However, the news that Zeman Chuksu of the Qinglang Society defeated King Wu Hao spread quickly. On the other hand, when Zi Mufeng and the housekeeper returned to the Zi mansion, they saw Zi Bing's body lying in the middle of the hall. Zi Mufeng's eyes flashed, but he pretended to be very horrified, and quickly came to Zi Bing's body. What's going on? Tell me who killed the master of the family, he said sternly to the servant beside him. Zeman Chuksu of the Qinglang Society. The servant stuttered. Chapter 629, the successor of the Changsheng Society, Holy Sword Lake, Taizangtang, and the leader of the Evil Alliance. Late at night, Qianji and King Wuhao was defeated, the bronze mace was taken away, Zemin Chuxuof, Qinglan Club, and 3 sword masters. Looking at the secret letter in her hand, Miran Qingchen's face changed slightly. If only 1 sword master appeared, she could understand it, but now 3 masters appeared. Qinglan Club must have a big move in the capital this time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many masters. Who are they going to deal with? Miran Qingchen thought in her heart. But fortunately, King Wuhao was not killed. If King Wuhao was killed, I'm afraid they really wanted to encircle and suppress Qinglan Club. Even if she, Qianji and Si, didn't move, the military would definitely move. Killing 2 great war marquesses in a row, the military couldn't possibly not move. Even if the 3 giants of the military were suppressing them, other people in the military would move. The strength of the military is unquestionable. The strength of the Qinglan Club is a little beyond my expectations. Maybe I should meet Bei Chaofei of Golden Wind and Rain Tower again. He should know the big things that are about to happen in the capital. Miran Qingchen said. Miran Qingchen knew that the incident should have happened recently. She couldn't wait to investigate it herself. Although she had taken over some of the power of the Xianjian division, she could not know some secrets for the time being and could only investigate from the outside. After thinking for a moment, she secretly left the Xianjian division. At this time, another place Ling Cheng appeared in a large room. You have come to my place twice in a row today. Zhu Pingsheng, the former head of the Xianjian division, who was dressed in white, looked at Ling Cheng and said, "Head, there are some changes. It's about the Qinglan Club. They have 3 sword fighting sea concentrated masters who appeared in the capital." Ling Cheng bowed and said, 3 sword fighting sea concentrated masters. This Qinglan Club is really surprising. They came here to participate in the battle on the 15th day of the full moon. Don't pay too much attention. Zhu Pingsheng said, surprised, but his face and tone were very calm. It seems that he did not have any special emotional fluctuations because of the 3 sea concentrated masters of the Qinglan Club. Your latest mission is to destroy this underworld. You can fight for supremacy in the martial arts world, but you must eradicate those who mislead the people. Zhu Pingsheng's tone was quite serious when he said this. You personally lead people there and don't leave any alive. His tone was murderous and decisive. This was Zhu Pingsheng, the first executioner under Emperor Zhao. I will do it myself. Ling Cheng bowed and said. He understood the other meanings in Zhu Pingsheng's words. It was to let him leave the capital recently. In other words, no matter what happened in the capital later, the Heavenly Supervision Division would not send out experts. Because as the deputy chief of the Heavenly Supervision Division, who was in charge of the Divine Guards, he was not in the Heavenly Supervision Division, so the Divine Guards of the Heavenly Supervision Division could not be mobilized. He couldn't help but think in his heart, what exactly are the chief and his majesty planning? But he didn't dare to ask more, and bowed and left the palace. After Ling Cheng left, Zhu Pingsheng slowly picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. Emperor Master, it's already this time, why haven't you come to see me yet? Zhu Pingsheng frowned slightly. He didn't believe that as an Emperor Master, he didn't know about the actions of the Evil Alliance. But until now, there seemed to be no movement in the Emperor Master's mansion, which was beyond Zhu Pingsheng's expectation. The Xianjian division monitors the movements of the world and can be said to be the top information agency of the Great Zhao dynasty. Every move of the capital and many places in the world is under surveillance. The Emperor Master's mansion was unusually quiet, which made him puzzled. But he couldn't find out anything. While he was thinking, a black figure appeared in the room. Master, your highness left the Xianjian division late at night and should be going to Xianaya Pavilion to ask about what is going to happen recently. The man in black said, half kneeling. The princess who knows about this may go to the Emperor Master's mansion so that she can help me see the reaction of the Emperor Master. Zhu Pingsheng's eyes lit up. Don't worry about this matter, just pay attention. Zhu Pingsheng waved his hand. The successor of the Changsheng Society has been born. It has been so long, but we still haven't found him. Zhu Pingsheng said in a deep voice. The whereabouts of this person have been found. He is not in the capital. On the way to Shengjian Lake, my subordinates have arranged people to make arrangements at Shengjian Lake. As long as this person arrives, he can be quickly captured. As for the successor of the Buleo Tang, his whereabouts have not been determined yet. The man in black hurriedly said. Shengjian Lake. It seems that the disciple born by the Changsheng society this time is a swordsman. But don't be careless, there should be a master of the other party to protect him. Continue to explore and find him in the shortest time. Zhu Pingsheng said in a deep voice. Emperor Zhao needs to get the immortal elixir and the secret book of longevity before the evil dragon is completed. The evil dragon has already raised its head before. This time, something happened in the capital. If the emperor's teacher falls, it will definitely speed up the completion of the evil dragon. So his time is also very tight. Another place in the capital, East City, Chianai Lake. It was late at night and only the sound of insects could be heard. The breeze blew. Taizan Tang was standing in a pavilion by the lake. He was waiting for someone. After Bei Chaofei contacted the Evil Alliance, the Evil Alliance replied that they would meet Taizan Tang here. A figure appeared by the lake, looked at Taizan Tang in the pavilion, and walked towards the pavilion. Taizan Tang sensed the person coming, turned around, and looked at the man in black walking towards the pavilion. He was wrapped in black clothes, and had a mask on his face. His aura was restrained, and no aura could be detected. His eyes condensed slightly. This person is not simple. Taizan Tang's heart moved. The great leader of the Evil Alliance. The person who came into the pavilion spoke and introduced himself. His voice was hoarse and the specific sound could not be heard. Chianai Pavilion Taizan Tang. This time I met with the people of the Evil Alliance, mainly to fulfill the alliance between my master and your alliance. Taizan Tang said. Your master? Hearing Taizan Tang's words, the great leader's tone was slightly surprised. The leader of the North Pavilion of Chianai Pavilion, Yi is my master. Taizan Tang said. Hearing this, the visitor showed a look of surprise on his face. Taizan Tang's strength is definitely stronger than Yi. Judging from the strength he showed at the entrance of the East City, he is definitely not someone who has just stepped into the sea to concentrate his mind. He should have been a strong man who has concentrated his mind in the sea for a long time. He underestimated the North Pavilion of Chianai Pavilion. This time, we contacted your alliance about the 15th day of the full moon. I believe that your alliance and us formed an alliance because of this matter. Taizan Tang said. The 15th day of the full moon was initiated by my evil alliance. I don't know if Deputy Pavilion Leader Tai has any doubts. The leader of the evil alliance said. The imperial teacher is the teacher of the emperor of the great Zhao dynasty. Not to mention his strength, his identity. We are so blatant. Aren't we afraid of being surrounded and suppressed by the royal family of the great Zhao dynasty? I don't believe that your evil alliance has such strength to resist the wrath of the royal family. Taizan Tang said. The great Zhao royal family will not pay attention to this matter. We have received accurate information that the great Zhao emperor will seek a breakthrough on the 15th day of the full moon. At that time, all the royal forces will gather in the imperial city to protect the safety of the Zhao emperor. The great alliance leader said. Chapter 630, Alliance, Chianai Pavilion, replaces Zenwu Garden. The great Zhao emperor has broken through and opened the heaven gate. Upon hearing this, Taizan Tang was shocked and looked at the great leader of the evil alliance. From the information he had received, concentration can lead to shattering, and shattering can also break the heaven gate. As for what will happen after breaking the heaven gate, Taizan Tang didn't know because they didn't have any information. No. The great leader shook his head. Our Emperor Zhao is not an ordinary person. The skills he practices are somewhat different from ordinary people. The breakthrough is not breaking the heaven gate, but it is very important to Emperor Zhao. This time I was invited to come here, and I also want to inform you of this matter. And in fact, our real purpose is not to deal with the Emperor's master. We want to deal with the Emperor's master to cause fluctuations in Zenwu Garden. Our target is the things in Zenwu Garden, the great leader said. Taizan Tang showed great strength and also conflicted with Zenwu Garden. So after discussion, the evil alliance informed Taizan Tang of its own purpose. Deal with Zenwu Garden? Taizan Tang was stunned. He didn't expect that the purpose was to deal with Zenwu Garden and take things from Zenwu Garden. But Zenwu Garden didn't seem to have any relationship with the Emperor's master, but Taizan Tang didn't ask. He had seen the sincerity of the Evil Alliance by being able to tell the real purpose of the Evil Alliance, so there was no need to ask anything else. Thank you for telling me, but Shianaya Pavilion, will not help you deal with Zenwu Garden, Taizan Tang said. Now, Shianaya Pavilion and Zenwu Garden are in a hostile relationship. But if Shianaya Pavilion helps the Evil Alliance to deal with Zenwu Garden, then Shianaya Pavilion will become a gun in the hands of the Evil Alliance. Because the Evil Alliance has no strongholds and is a hidden force, they have 2 strongholds in the capital. Once they fight, when Zenwu Garden can't find the Evil Alliance, it will inevitably point its spearhead at Shianaya Pavilion. Although they, Shianaya Pavilion, are not afraid of Zenwu Garden, the power of Shianaya Pavilion is not that strong in the capital. Last time, he showed his might at the gate of Zenwu Garden, and he also intended to intimidate the other party. Deputy Pavilion Master Tai is worried about the counterattack of Zenwu Garden. Don't worry, I also intend to destroy Zenwu Garden in the capital this time. What's more, I got the news that Kenjuan is going to use Zenwu Order to attack Shianaya Pavilion after the 15th day of the full moon. Although Kenjuan is the general manager of Zenwu Garden, he can't mobilize the Sea Concentrated Spirit Masters of Zenwu Garden, but he can mobilize the Sea Concentrated Spirit Masters in the garden by using Zenwu Order. He wants to deal with you. We have become mortal enemies. We can take this opportunity to work together to eliminate Zenwu Garden, so that Shianaya Pavilion can replace Zenwu Garden in the capital, the leader of the Evil Alliance said. Hearing this, Taizan Tang fell into deep thought. After a moment, he said, your idea is very tempting. It is a good idea for Shianaya Pavilion to replace Zenwu Garden. I agree with your plan. Okay. Hearing this, the great leader showed a smile in his eyes. Today is an appointment to meet on the 15th. I will take my leave first. After saying this, the great leader of the Evil Alliance turned and left. Taizan Tang did not stay here and turned and left. The night was calm, without a single ripple. Jiang and Jinling on the flower boat, the lights were bright. Su Chen stood on the giant boat, eating cakes and reading books in his hands. It was very comfortable. Suddenly, a figure appeared in Su Chen's room. Meet the master. This is the head of Emperor Wu Hao. But when I came to the capital, His Excellency Yan Shizhen suspected that this head was not the real head of Emperor Wu Hao. General Yajiu Tajima said, carrying the brocade box on his back and putting it aside. Yan Shizhen suspected that this is not the real head of Emperor Wu Hao. Su Chen frowned slightly. Yes, but when Emperor Wu Hao rushed out of the ruins, Lord Yan Shizhen slashed him in half with one sword. But Lord Yan Shizhen said that Emperor Wu Hao was very strong. Even if he was injured at that time, he should not have been able to slash him in half with one sword if he did not use the 15th sword. Liu Sheng Tadama said. Hearing this, Su Chen's eyes condensed. He believed in Yan Shizhen's intuition. If so, it means that Emperor Wu Hao may have faked his death, and they just killed a substitute for the other party. No matter what, Emperor Wu Hao is already dead. As long as we take this Emperor Wu Hao's head to the black market, we can take away the reward for Emperor Wu Hao on the black market. Su Chen said. Now that the head has been brought back, then we must go to the black market. Many people know that Emperor Wu Hao was slashed in half by Yan Shizhen's sword at that time. There is still a sword energy left by Yan Shizhen on this head, which can prove that this is the head of Emperor Wu Hao. I will go to the black market tonight to collect the reward. Liu Sheng Tadama said. The black market is not simple. I will let the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi go to the black market with you. Su Chen said. The strength of Yajiu Tajima is at the level of Dunshan turning into the sea, and it is still a little short of concentrating in the sea. However, Yajiu Tajima's ability to escape is first class. If he encounters a strong man who concentrates in the sea, even if he is defeated, it is not a problem to leave. But just in case, let the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi follow him and help to resist when necessary. Thank you, my lord. Yajiu Tajima bowed and left the room, turning into a black shadow and leaving. As Yajayu Tajima left, the four figures also left quickly in the dark. I wonder if the fake Emperor Wu Hao can be exchanged for the reward silver. Su Chen murmured. Then he continued to read the book. But not long after reading, Yuan Suan walked into the room. My lord, Nangang Kyushu, Nangang family, Jinling City, came to visit. Yuan Suan reported. Nangang family, Nangang Kyushu, she came to visit me. The body that was originally half lying stood up slowly, frowning slightly. Not many people knew about his news in Jinling. Why did Nangang Kyushu come to visit him at this time? Did she find something? Please let her in first. There was no need to guess what the other party was doing. Since the other party came to visit, why not let Su Chen meet the other party? Yuan Suan left. After a while, a woman in a black dress with a veil on her face followed Yuan Suan into the room. I'm disturbing you late at night. Master Su, young Master Su, please forgive me for visiting you late at night. Nangang Kyushu's voice was soft and icy. Although her face could not be seen clearly, her figure and voice were also very attractive. In the ranking of the Heavenly Immortal list, Nangang Kyushu was ranked the second most beautiful woman in the world, 1 point higher than Zhuang's Duanji. When Su Chen was looking at Nangang Kyushu was also looking at Su Chen. Although his face is not handsome, he exudes a different aura, and there is also a sense of elegance in his aura, which makes people feel good. Of course, there is also a faint sense of oppression. The young dragon leader of the Qinglang society is much stronger than the rumors outside. Miss Nangang, please sit down. I wonder why you come here so late at night. Su Chen said. Young dragon leader Su, I came here this time to ask you to stop attacking Jile Palace. Nangang Kyushu said. Chapter 631 Black and White Zuan Jian, Black Market Bank, Ghost Tomb. Hearing this, Su Chen frowned slightly. Miss Nangang, I don't understand what you mean. Su Chen said. Young Master Su, isn't the Qinglang Society targeting the Jile Palace recently? I heard that Zhao Xiaodi went to Lingnan County to meet young Master. Nangang Kyushu said. Could it be that Miss Nangang has something to do with the Jile Palace? Su Chen looked at Nangang Kyushu and said. I'm one of the noble daughters of the Jile Palace, and I'm also the person arranged by the Nangang family in the Jile Palace. Now the Jile Palace in Jinling is under my control. If young Master Su stops targeting the Jile Palace, all the cash that the Qinglang Society previously obtained from the two branches will belong to the Qinglang Society. Nangang Kyushu said. Recently, another branch of the Jile Palace was also taken down by Wei Zhuang. But the cash was not much, only half of the last time. Okay. Su Chen said. They have come to him, and they have found him. It seems that they have investigated a lot of information. The words have been made clear. Su Chen has no need to continue to target Paradise Palace. After all, the task entrusted by Zhao Xiaodi has been completed. Nangang Kyushu did not expect Su Chen to agree so directly. Just after she finished speaking, she was still waiting for Su Chen to propose conditions. I will personally meet the 7 dragon heads in Jinling City and ask him to give up targeting Paradise Palace. But the Nangang family is a 1,000-year-old family with a collection of ancient books. I want to enter the Nangang family library and take a look. Su Chen looked at Nangang Kyushu and said. Zhuang's father is a businessman and does not have many books. I plan to meet him these 2 days and take a look at some of his collections. But in terms of ancient books, no one in Jinling City should be able to compare with the Nangang family. That's why he had this idea. Nangang Kyushu's beautiful eyes fell on a pile of books in the house, and a book opened next to the recliner behind Su Chen, and she vaguely understood something. No wonder this young Master Su has a refined aura, but the young master of the Green Dragon Society is a bit idle. Green Dragon Society is a killer organization, and the young master is actually a person who likes to read. Young Master Su, the Nangang family's library is a forbidden area and is not convenient for the public, but I can lend some books for young Master Su to read. I don't know which books young Master Su is interested in. Su Chen had given in before, and she also needed to return the favor. Although Su Chen was not allowed to enter the Nangang family's library, she could help Su Chen borrow some books. Thank you very much, Miss Nangang. Su Chen's face showed a hint of joy. Recently, he has read almost all the books in Zhuang's collection. He has also accumulated 3 orange lottery cards. He was still thinking about how to trigger the lottery again, but he didn't expect Nangang Kyushu to give it to him. After the deal was settled, the two did not seem as restrained as before, and began to talk. Although Nangang Kyushu's voice was soft, he was also very generous. It can be seen from the fact that she came directly to Su Chen. After a conversation, Nangang Kyushu said goodbye, but left a token for Su Chen, the Nangang family, representing Nangang Kyushu's token. It's a pity that I didn't see her face. Put the token into the space ring, and let Yuan Suan notify Wei Zhuang to stop targeting Paradise Palace. The other party has already found them and made precautions, and there will be no more games. So it is meaningless to target Paradise Palace. I just didn't expect that this Nangang Kyushu is actually one of the honored daughters of Paradise Palace. I don't know what kind of practice she practices, but her coming here gives me the opportunity to contact the old family. Su Chen said in his heart, with the opportunity of Nangang Kyushu coming, maybe I can have good luck. Think of the 3 orange lottery cards in my mind. Draw them directly. Get the character Black and White Zuan Jian. Get the Black and White Zuan Jian weapon Zuan/Jian. And get one Wei Zhuang Shenshi sensation card. Yeah. Looking at this lottery, Su Chen's face showed joy. The character Hei Bei Zuan Jian is a character from Qin Shi Ming Yuan Shan Crossing Jiu Jet. He is a top-ranked killer in Luo Wang, bloodthirsty and cruel. Su Chen then checked the character information. Hei Bei Zuan Jian is stronger than Wei Zhuang, reaching the level of C concentration, but there is no note. However, with his weapon, he is definitely a strong man in the C concentration. Wei Zhuang's divine power perception card. This helps Wei Zhuang to condense his divine power. Without any hesitation, he directly uses the divine power perception card. At this time, in an underground secret room, Wei Zhuang, who was practicing, suddenly changed his expression. A huge breath instantly poured into his body, vaguely beginning to arouse the divine power that he had not yet condensed. His eyes condensed, his spirit was focused, his mind sank into it, and he felt it, cooperating with what he thought in his heart. As his perception continued to improve, a strange aura appeared around Wei Zhuang. Another place, the underground black market in Jinling City. In fact, in other places, the underground black market is also called the ghost market. It's just that the ghost markets in other regions are a mixed bag, gathering all kinds of people and getting some things that are not common in the market. But the underground black market in Jinling is not ordinary. When he appeared in Jinling City, the black market existed for a long time and gradually formed a system. Money houses, restaurants, killer organizations, everything is available in the underground black market. And the reputation of the money houses in the underground of Jinling City has not changed for thousands of years. Otherwise, the reward offered by Emperor Wuha of the capital would not be issued in the underground black market of Jinling City. There are many top forces in the black market of Jinling City. These forces are very terrifying, but they do not expand, and have always been in the underground black market of Jinling City. Another thing is that the underground black market in Jinling City is very large. The size of Jinling City is as large as the black market. Because the underground black market in Jinling City is just below Jinling. The entrance to the black market is everywhere outside Jinling City. In a cave, Yajiu Tajima entered it wearing black clothes and black robes and carrying a package. The cave is very large, and there are some people like him wearing black robes and covering their faces. After all, this is one of the entrances to the black market. This kind of dress is very ordinary. Yajiu Tajima is going to one of the underground forces, Ghost Tomb. The bounty is issued from Ghost Tomb, so he needs to go to Ghost Tomb to collect the bounty. On the dim street, an endless stream of people come here. They are all martial artists. The dim night is not a problem for them at all. Soon, Yajiu Tajima appeared in front of a bank. There is a huge word money in the middle of the bank, and under the word money is an evil ghost head, which looks a bit hideous. There are not many people in front of the bank, which looks a bit desolate. The large black market bank, Ghost Tomb, does not receive everyone. Inside the bank, a thin old man was dozing off, and next to him, a servant was sleeping on the counter. When Yajayu Tajima walked in, the dozing old man and the servant woke up instantly. Look at Yajayu Tajima. Yajayu Tajima didn't care. He came to the old man and put the package on the counter. The old man touched the package and his eyes narrowed. He raised his hand slightly. When he saw the head inside, his face changed. Please wait a moment. The identification will be completed within an hour. After the old man said that, he picked up the package and walked into the backstage of the bank. Yajayu Tajima no Kami did not stop him. According to the rules of the Jinling black market, when he entered the bank, he was protected by both the ghost tomb and the black market. As long as the identification was completed and he received the reward, the ghost tomb and the black market masters would protect him to leave the black market. As for outside the black market, he could only rely on his own ability. Chapter 632, The Fake Emperor Wu Hao's Head, Lady Jile's Confidence. 3 people were sitting in a dimly lit building. A fat man with a face full of flesh was eating meat. Next to him was an old man in a black robe. The old man's eyes were unusually sharp. Opposite the two sat a woman in a blue palace dress, who was the previous palace master of Paradise Palace. Madam Gillette, the head of Emperor Wu Hao is here. I have checked it. There is no problem with the facial features. The wound was also cut by a sword, and the sword energy was extremely sharp. There are no extra marks. It should be the sword of Yanshizan of Qinglang Society. This Yanshizan swordsmanship is very strong. Among the people I know, only 5 people can match him, but no one can surpass him. From the swordsmanship marks, no one can imitate it. This should be the head of Emperor Wu Hao. The old man in black robe said in a deep voice. This Qinglang Society is really not simple. I heard that they also have a swordsmanship master named Yi Gucheng. The swordsmanship is extremely elegant and sharp, and there is a feeling of flying fairies from the sky. Madame Gile said in a deep voice. She was still somewhat grateful to the Qinglang Society and Xian'ai Pavilion because they killed Du Gubidao, who was my eldest son. This gave her son room to go further. I just don't know who this person is. He actually snatched the head of Emperor Wu Hao at the last moment. How strong is this person? Madame Zhao asked. The news of the siege of Emperor Wu Hao's mansion in the capital has been spread. 5 powerful sea concentrated spirits surrounded Emperor Wu Hao, killing 2 sea concentrated spirits, severely injuring Emperor Wu Hao, and finally being killed by Yanshizan with a sword. But in the end, someone took away Emperor Wu Hao's head at the last moment, and there was a yellow bag behind. This is not something our ghost tomb needs to take care of. We are just offering a bounty for you. We are not in a position to disclose the other party's strength. Now that the head has been brought, it is time for us to offer a bounty to others. Now you are still short of the agreed cash of 15 million taels. We Ghost Tomb can help you advance the payment, but within a month, you need to take out 30 million taels of cash. At this time, the old man in black robe said coldly. He doubled the amount right away. This is also one of the businesses of their bank. Upon hearing this, Madame Giles' face condensed slightly. If it weren't for the robbery of the Gile Palace branch, her money would have been collected long ago, and there would not be a shortfall of 15 million taels now. Originally, she thought that the other party might not come to claim the bounty so soon, so she gave her time. Let her collect the bounty. But the other party didn't give her time. Now she can only grit her teeth and agree. Okay, but I want to take the head away. Madame Giles said. No problem. The old man in black robe nodded. Come here, the old man in black robe said at this time. Creaking, the door was opened, and the old man who had received Yajayu Tajima no Kami walked in. Give the reward amount to the other party, and the other party can choose the gold notes that are universal in the black market business, or the gold notes that are universal in business across the country. And if the distinguished guest is willing, we can provide him with our Ghost Tomb black card. The old man in black said. Yes. The old man who came in bowed and left the room. Oldkin, you are very optimistic about the other party? Madame Gila walked in front of the Emperor Wu Hao's head and said. Being able to leave in front of 3 sea concentrated masters, I certainly value him very much. The old man in black robe said. It's really good, but I hope they can leave Jinling City safely. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Madame Gila wrapped up the Emperor Wu Hao's head in front of her, turned around and left through another door. After Madame Gila left, the man eating the meat looked at the old mankin in black robe and said, "Oldkin, do you think there is something wrong with the head of Emperor Wu Hao?" "Problem? I don't see it. I just didn't expect that Emperor Wu Hao would be beheaded so easily." Emperor Wu Hao can be called the first war marquis. He was appointed by Emperor Zhao to replace Du Gu to take charge of the South China Sea region for me. His wisdom and strength are extremely extraordinary. He shouldn't be killed so easily. However, the battle scene in the capital was fed back. It was true that Emperor Wu Hao was killed by Yan Shizhen with a sword. The sword energy left on his head just now can't be fake. The old man in black robe said in a deep voice, "So you are going to give the black card to the person who comes? It is a test, and also just in case." The fat man bit a big piece of meat. Then he put it down, wiped the clothes on his chest with his oily hands, and stood up and said, "If it's fake, the other party may not know it himself. I'm going to protect that guy, and see if I can detect anything by the way." After that, he turned and walked out of the room. Boom. Boom. The ground shook as he stepped on it, but when he left the room, there was no sound from his footsteps. This shows that he has a strong control over his own strength. Outside the bank, General Yajayu Tajima left the ghost tomb bank and entered the crowd. He entered a dark street. A black mist appeared on his body. When the mist dissipated, there was no one on the dark street. Some spies who were monitoring around the ghost tomb were stunned when they saw this. They checked around but found nothing. The fat man who followed him out was also stunned when he saw this. What a brilliant hiding technique. But don't underestimate me, ghost tomb. As he spoke, a flying insect appeared in his hand. The flying insect flew towards a place as soon as it appeared. After tracking for a while, the flying insect stopped in an undercurrent. Amazing. After so many years, if someone can still get rid of the colorless and odorless soul-chasing incense, it's really not simple. No wonder he was able to snatch the head of Emperor Wu Hao from the hands of the sea-concentrated strongman. You are really cautious. If you don't want us to protect you, then rely on yourself. The fat man turned and left. Not long after, Ghost Tomb took off the previous reward for Emperor Wu Hao. For a time, the whole black market was shaken. Some spies around Ghost Tomb instantly thought of the Yajayu Tajima no Kami who was wearing a black robe and was lost by him. It's that person. That person took the reward silver. Soon this news spread quickly. Not only the black market was moving, but even some major forces in Jinling City were moving. The money was too generous, and no one would not be jealous. Although there were few clues, as long as you look for them, you will definitely find the other party's traces. On the other side, Madame Zhao also appeared in a courtyard in Jinling City with the head of Emperor Wu Hao. The courtyard is extremely simple. Late at night, in a house, the lights were still bright. Du Guiwei, wearing a brocade robe, was among them. Madame Zhao, wearing a blue palace dress, pushed open the door and walked in. The head of Marquis de Wu has been taken to the black market, and the reward has been taken. I believe that many people in Jinling City will be looking for this person tomorrow. Madame Zhao said as she placed the head of Marquis de Wu in front of Du Guiwei. Du Guiwei looked at the black package, waved his hand, and a beam of light came out, splitting the package, and the two halves of Marquis de Wu's head appeared in front of Du Guiwei. Du Guiwei stepped forward and looked at the split part. The blood had dried up, but there was still some sword energy on it. Such sword energy can still be left for such a long time. This Qinglang society, Yan Shizhen has a very deep swordsmanship. Feel the sword energy on Marquis de Wu's head. Suddenly, Du Guiwei's face condensed, and he said in a deep voice, "Emperor Wu Hao, it seems that I underestimated you. What's wrong?" "There is something wrong with this head. This is not the real head of Emperor Wu Hao. Emperor Wu Hao served under my camp in the past. Although others can't see this head, it still can't escape my eyes. I think the person who finally hijacked Emperor Wu Hao's head was his own arrangement. Is this to exchange the power of the South China Sea region for the reward I gave you?" Du Guiwei said coldly. "I'm going to the ghost tomb now." No, Emperor Wu Hao's actions have already shown that he will not appear, so there is no need to expose this fact. Exposing the facts is not good for us. but we still have to get the reward back. You take back the head in the package. There should be a way to find this person. Notify Zhuduan and Du Fengli to come and let them help you recover the reward from that person. The reward from Emperor Wu Hao is not so easy to get. Du Guiwei said. You understand me? I don't think I can let this reward leave Jinling City. Madame Gila showed a confident look on her face. Why did she bring back the head in the package? Not only for Du Guiwei to see. Also, because the package and the head were brought by the other party in such a short time, there must be the other party's scent on them. As long as she remembers the scent, she can find the other party. Chapter 633 Nangang Family, Nangang Wentian. Madame Zhao wrapped up the head of Marquis de Wu. She turned and left. I will bring back the reward within 3 days. Madame Zhao turned and left. At this time, at a dark corner of the street, Yajiu Tajima appeared, looked around, found nothing, and moved his hand slightly. 4 figures appeared in front of him. They were the 4 ghosts from Xiangxi who followed him. This is the reward ticket. Please bring it to the master. I will wait for a while before going to see the master. Yajiu Tajima said. He would not underestimate the warriors of this world. It is possible that the other party will find him in a special way. So he will not go to see Su Chen in the near future, so as not to bring trouble to Su Chen. One of the 4 ghosts from Xiangxi took the gold ticket, and then the 4 turned into a shadow and left. In the flower boat of Jinling Lake, 4 figures flashed in from the window. Master, the reward money has been obtained. Mr. Yajiu is afraid that he will be stared at, so he will not come to see the master for the time being. One person said. Su Chen put the gold ticket into the space ring. This is the biggest fortune he has ever gotten. A single transaction will get 10 million taels of gold tickets, and an orange lottery card will be awarded. When Su Chen put the gold ticket into the space ring, he actually got an orange lottery card. Not bad. Su Chen nodded. 4 figures quickly disappeared in front of Su Chen. After the 4 people left, Su Chen frowned slightly. There are endless strange people and strange things in the martial arts world of the Great Zhao Dynasty. It is really possible to find Yajiu Tajima no Kami. We still have to send someone to protect him. Then he called Hei Beizu and Jian. When Hei Beizu and Jian was drawn, Su Chen asked Yuan Suan to tell Hei Beizu and Jian about the situation in this world. Especially some situations in Jinling City and Jiangnan. Hei Beizu and Jian wore blue clothes, tight leggings, clean and neat, with a slender and upright figure, a blue headband with a red ribbon tied casually, and black hair. On the shipbuilding, there were still a few strands of hair floating, and the red ribbon fluttering lightly in the breeze. The black belt decoration on his waist makes him look more casual and unrestrained, but his eyes are deep and painful, and the scar in the middle of his eyes makes him look a little cold-blooded and arrogant. Black and white Zuan Jian can be said to be a contradictory person. He is a crazy and bloodthirsty killer, but he is also a passionate and gentle person. Loving someone is just a sad and beautiful love. It's a pity. Su Chen's eyes fell on the weapon in the other party's hand. Zuan Jian, one black and one white Zuan Jian double-edged, the positive blade takes life, and the reversed blade comes the soul. It is divided into black and white double swords. Black is Zuan, and white is Jian. It is rumored that the white sword is a guardian sword to protect relatives. The black sword is a killing sword to eliminate enemies. I need you to protect someone. Don't leave anyone alive when you take action. Su Chen said. Yes. Black and white Zuan Jian's words are very simple. Take Mr. Zuan Jian and contact Yajiu Tajima no Kami. Su Hao said to the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi who were hiding in the dark. Another place, the largest manor in Jinling City. Only an ancient family, the Nangang family, the first family in Jinling, can own such a manor. There are 4 major families in Jiangnan, and the Nangang family is one of them, occupying Jinling City. Nangang Kyushu, wearing a black long skirt, walked into a secret room. In the secret room, there are 2 people. One is wearing a brocade robe, with a majestic face, looks only about 40 years old, with a gentle face like jade, a slender figure, a dragon-like posture and tiger bones, and a pair of white and delicate palms, which are much longer than ordinary people's fingers. It is the head of the Nangang family, Nangang Wentian. Next to him, there is also a woman in a purple long skirt standing. The woman's face is exactly the same as Nangang Kyushu's. It's just that Nangang Kyushu's eyes are colder than the others. There is a hint of tenderness and charm in the other's eyes. It is Nangang Kyushu's twin sister Nangang Yiren. Nangang Wentian has no sons, only 2 daughters. Jiang, who overlords all, have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but Nangang Wentian is very loyal. He only loves one person in his life, that is, his wife Fa. A childhood sweetheart. She died of dystocia when she gave birth to Nangang Kyushu and the others. Since then, he has never been attracted to any woman again. Have you met the young leader of the Green Dragon Society? Nangang Wentian said. Reporting to my father, I have met him. He is a little different from what I imagined. His own strength should be stronger than mine. He is not overbearing. He agrees not to attack Paradise Palace anymore. But from what he said, the commander of the Green Dragon Society in Jinling City is not the 4th dragon leader Fu Hongsu, but the 7th dragon leader Wei Zhuang, which is somewhat contrary to our previous guess. Nangang Kyushu said. 7th dragon leader Wei Zhuang? I didn't expect that. In addition to the 4th dragon leader Fu Hongsu in Jiangnan, the Green Dragon Society also has a 7th dragon leader Wei Zhuang. Nangang Wentian said in a deep voice. This Qinglang Society is not simple. The 4th dragon leader Fu Hongsu, the 3rd dragon leader Li Chenzhao, and a sword master Yan Shizan are all powerful concentrated masters. The appearance of Qinglang Society in Jiangnan may bring great changes. Nangang Wentian said afterwards. Father, in fact, Su Xiaolong wanted to enter our Nangang family's library. I have already refused, but I promised him that I would give him some ancient books. We should have a good relationship with Qinglang Society and strive to cooperate with them. In that case, Qinglang Society will not accept our commission to assassinate people from my Nangang family. Nangang Kyushu said. Sister, do you want me to contact Su Xiaolong? Nangang Yiren, who was standing aside, said. Although Su Xiaolong is not domineering, I think this person has a strong mind and is not an ordinary person. Yiren, you'd better have less contact with him. Nangang Kyushu looked at Nangang Yiren and said. Nangang Yiren did not speak, but her eyes flickered, and it seemed that she would not listen to Nangang Kyushu's advice. Just now, the black market received news that the bounty offered by Marquis Wu has been taken away. No one in the black market is targeting this person, but the amount of money is huge. If someone finds this person, our Nangang family will also fight for it. Nangang Wentian said. The amount is so large that his Nangang family also wants it. This money should be paid by Jile Palace. Madame Gila will chase it, but this person dares to take the bounty at this time. He must have some trump cards. We should observe first and then decide whether to take action. Nangang Kyushu said. Ordinary people should wait for this wave of rumors to disappear before claiming the bounty. After all, when Marquis Wu died, many eyes were staring at this bounty, but the other party dared to do so, which only means that the other party had some confidence. I have sent spies to find Madame Gillen. As long as Madame Gillen is found, we should be able to find the other party. At that time, when the 2 sides fight, we will benefit. You don't have to do anything about this matter. I will let other people in the Nangang family do it. Nangang Wentian said. The next morning, the warriors in Jinling City are talking about the fact that the reward offered by the black market god Wu Hao has been taken, and many people are looking for the person who took the reward. The martial artists in the whole city of Jinling seem a little crazy. Money is attractive. Too much money, who wouldn't go crazy? As long as you get a little, you can rise to the top in one step. Some forces even offer a reward. As long as you provide clues, you can get a reward. In the city, in a courtyard, 3 figures fell. The leader is Madame Gile, and there are 2 people beside him. One of them is slender, wearing a dark blue robe, with a short beard under his chin, smiling, and looks like he is about 50. Of course, he is definitely not young. This person is called Zhu Duan, and he is a guest official in Du Guwen's mansion. Another big man, carrying a long knife on his back. The blade is wide and the handle is heavy, giving people the feeling that the knife is very heavy. And another retainer Du Fengli. It's not long since we left. From the traces, it seems that there is only one person on the other side. Zhuge and said, after checking the situation in the courtyard. This person is not simple-minded. After receiving the reward last night, he did not leave Jinling City immediately, but stayed in the city. This is something that others would never expect, but he can't escape from my grasp. When Madame Chile spoke, a black butterfly appeared in her hand. The butterfly circled in the courtyard and flew towards a place. Madame Chile took the butterfly in her hand and followed the guidance of the butterfly. They came to the east city of Jinling City. He left this morning. Did he follow the group of warriors who left the city and mixed in the search team? Madam, should we continue to chase him? Since we know he is outside the city, if we act during the day, it will definitely attract too many people. If we act at night, we can surround and kill him and get rid of him as soon as possible. Madame Chile said. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 634, Wind and Thunder. Black and White Zhu and Jian appear. In the dark night, in a dilapidated temple, Yajayu Tajima no Kami was lying on a wooden pillar in the dilapidated temple, holding a long sword. His body was wrapped in a dark robe, and his face was covered with a black cloth, revealing his eyes, that were extremely solemn. This morning, he felt that he was being watched. This was an intuition. He had been thinking in his heart, where exactly he had revealed a flaw, or what could allow the other party to find him. The emptiness and silence made his thoughts turn quickly. Suddenly, a light flashed in his eyes, and he knew where he had made a mistake. I didn't expect that someone could find my trace with a little bit of residual smell. Yajayu Tajima no Kami thought to himself. Then he closed his eyes and adjusted his breath. Rumble. At this moment, thunder appeared in the sky, turning the dark day into bright day from time to time. Swish, swish, swish. 3 figures appeared outside the dilapidated temple. The leader was Lady Jialan. Her eyes fell on the ruined temple in front of her. Today's weather is really helping me, Madame Chile said, looking at the sky, where thunder was roaring from time to time. In this kind of weather, people can't find the battle here, because the sound of the battle was covered by the roaring thunder. Let's go and see who the other party is. Madame Chile pushed open the door of the ruined temple. Step into the ruined temple. In the temple, Yajayu Tajima no Kami, who was leaning against the wooden pillar in the temple, changed his face, moved his body, and instantly disappeared. 3 figures walked into the dark ruined temple. No one was noticed. Madame Chile's eyes condensed. The butterfly flew out of her hand before. Boom. At this time, thunder and lightning suddenly sounded. Swish. A knife light appeared instantly when the thunder and lightning sounded, and the butterfly, that had just flown, was split in half by the knife light at this moment. But when he took action, he also exposed his breath. Du Fengli, who was carrying a long knife beside Madame Chile, suddenly emitted a light in his eyes. Cut. He grasped the handle of the long sword with his right hand, and slashed it out instantly, with a terrifying sword energy. Yajayu Tajima no Kami retreated quickly, grasped the long sword with both hands at the same time, and slashed it out. Bang! His body was shocked by the powerful sword energy and hit the wall, knocking a hole in the wall, and his body fell outside the ruined temple. When his body fell, the man who made the move kicked the ground with his foot, and his body flew up and punched out. The wall of the ruined temple collapsed instantly, and this man rushed out, and blocked Yajayu Tajima no Kami's way. You want to leave, after being stopped by me? Hand over the gold note and I will give you a whole body. Lady Jialan followed, her face covered with frost. The black butterfly she had worked so hard to cultivate was slashed by Yajayu Tajima no Kami with a sword. Now she wanted to tear the other party apart, but the gold note was still in the other party's hands, and she had to get the gold note. Yajayu Tajima no Kami, his expression did not change, and his eyes stared at the 3 people fiercely. Madame Chile and the person who just attacked him gave him a strong pressure. Their strength should be at the level of concentrating the mind in the sea. As for the old man in the dark blue robe, the fluctuation of his aura was at the level of Dunshan turning into the sea. If you still want to resist, hit him hard first, Madame Chile said with a cold look in her eyes. Boom. Du Fenglo's footsteps instantly exerted force and his body attacked Yagyu Tajima no Mori. He slashed with the long sword in his hand. The heavy sword light made the air ripple. He did not use the power of God. Because Yagyu Tajima no Mori's strength was not enough for him to use the power of God. Yagyu Tajima no Mori's eyes tightened. He held the sword with both hands. He did not retreat. In front of such a strong man, retreating head on would be waiting for him. Endless attacks would be waiting for him. At that time, the only result would be being seriously injured or killed by a sword. Kill. Yagyu Tajima no Mori shouted in a low voice, and all the sword energy on his body burst out, and his mind was also integrated into his long sword. Killing God slashed with a sword, and he stepped on the ground, and his body did not retreat but advanced, and slashed with a sword. The sword energy was filled with violent and murderous energy, forming a sharp blade. Du Fenglo's face moved slightly, and a sound of wind and thunder appeared on the long sword in his hand. Wind and thunder sword. The falling long sword instantly became faster. It collided with the long sword of Yagyu Tajima. Peng. Yagyu Tajima was shocked and flew backwards, spurting out a mouthful of blood, and blood flowed from the wrist holding the long sword. The robe on his arm was shattered by lightning. The opponent's heavy long sword was carrying the power of lightning. The sword technique just now was very murderous, but you haven't comprehended the divine power. It's hard for you to fight me alone. Du Fenglo looked at Yagyu Tajima. Yagyu Tajima's eyes did not change at all. He raised one hand, and several golden needles appeared behind him in an instant. Swish. The golden needles fell, and landed on various acupuncture points behind him. The energy on his body began to surge, and a red light appeared in his eyes. Then he suddenly stepped on the ground, and his whole body turned into a black figure, rushing out violently, and his speed was much faster than before. Du Fenglo's eyes condensed, his expression became solemn, and his body moved sideways. At the place where he staggered, a flash of knife light flashed down, with a bloody sharp knife aura, leaving a trace of several feet on the ground. The attack missed, and the long sword in the hand of Yagyu Tajima shall cut across, and the terrifying knife aura burst out. Du Fenglo's long sword lay horizontally, blocking the attack, but his body was shocked back. Suddenly Du Fenglo's face changed, and his face became ferocious. A terrifying momentum burst out from his body. Divine power, wind, and thunder slash. Du Fenglo snorted coldly, and the divine power burst out. A terrifying sound of wind and thunder appeared on his body, forming a terrifying pressure. Yagyu Tajima Shao was shocked by this terrifying pressure, and stepped back several steps. He stepped his feet and long sword into the ground to stabilize his body. But the opponent raised his long sword, and was about to strike. Just when the opponent's divine power was released, the surrounding atmosphere suddenly changed. The light produced by the thunder and lightning in the dark night suddenly changed. Du Fenglo, who had originally released divine power, focused his eyes. He felt that his divine power seemed to be suppressed. He looked in one direction. Not only him, but even Lady Chal and the others looked in one direction. At this time, a figure came towards this side. Where the figure walked, the surroundings began to become dark. The space that was originally bright from time to time became dark. The figure, holding two long swords. Suddenly, the figure changed and soared into the air. In a blink of an eye, it turned into several figures, and attacked Du Fenglo. Du Fenglo, holding a long sword, slashed. The wind and thunder energy burst out, but it was a phantom that was slashed. Several figures gathered into one person, and appeared in front of him in an instant. He hurriedly returned the sword. Bang! But the powerful double-edged sword energy shook him away. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out. He looked at the figure that fell to the ground. The person who came was none other than Black and White Zuan Jian. Let your soul become a part of me. Black and White Zuan Jian's voice seemed very low. Before he finished speaking, he had already appeared in front of the opponent and slashed with both blades at the same time. The injured Du Fenglo hurriedly resisted, but the powerful sword energy knocked him away again. At the moment of being knocked away, Black and White Zuan Jian rushed out, and the long sword in his hand slashed across the opponent's body. Chapter 635. Crush-like killing. No one survived. Blood splattered. A huge scar appeared on Du Fenglo's body, and blood spurted out. The severe pain made him recover, but another black longsword pierced his heart veins, shattering his heart veins. Suddenly, a black energy flowed from Du Fengluo's body into the longsword, and into the body of Hei Beizuan Jian. Turning around, with cold and fierce eyes, he looked at Madame Zhao and Zhuge Duan. At this time, the two people's faces changed. The person who appeared killed Du Fengluo in a blink of an eye. Du Fengluo's divine power just now was completely suppressed. He had no chance to display it, and was killed by the opponent. This person was a bit scary. Who are you? Madame Zhao's face changed drastically, and she and Zhuge Duan both defended themselves. Madam, you go first. Zhuge Duan said in a deep voice beside Madame Zhao. The opponent killed Du Fengluo with one blow. The strength was terrifying, and they were afraid that they could not defeat him. Want to leave? You saw me, do you still think you can leave? Hei Beizuan Jian, with cold eyes, had a terrifying aura on his body. Divine power, Xian Shijiluo. A terrifying dark aura burst out from him, and the black curtain that was originally condensed around him suddenly became larger. When Hei Beizuan Jian appeared, he condensed his own divine power, but his divine power was different from that of others, and it was scattered around. Sir, how about we give up this robbery? Zhuge Duan looked at Hei Beizuan Jian and said. While speaking, a silver light suddenly appeared in his left hand, and a silver short gun that was only 1 foot long. Divine power, Phantom Bliss. When Zhuge Duan moved, Madame Bliss shouted in a low voice, and a huge momentum appeared around her. As the momentum came out, countless graceful figures appeared around, and a corrupt breath continued to appear from these figures, temporarily blocking the divine power emitted by Hei Beizuan Jian. At this moment, Zhuge Duan moved his body, and instantly turned into a green afterimage, appearing in front of Hei Beizuan Jian. The silver short gun in his hand shot out instantly. The short gun burst out, forming a silver light, suddenly tearing the darkness. A powerful spear force burst out from the short gun. Clang. It was just a quick shot, but it was blocked by a black longsword. The charging figure paused, his eyes changed, and he quickly pulled back the silver short gun, and instantly shot again. This time the short gun turned into countless silver gun shadows, which were very dazzling in the night sky. Clang clang clang. But all his attacks were blocked by the long sword. For a moment, stars of fire splashed out, and he couldn't get close at all. On the other side, Madame Zhao made a move. A terrifying black energy appeared in her palm, and her figure turned into a phantom, and in the blink of an eye, she killed in front of Hei Beizuan Jian. But a sword light shot out like thunder, and collided with her palm. At the intersection, the air suddenly exploded. The figure was shocked back. Zhuge Duan, who had made a move earlier, was even more shocked back by this energy. Boom. Black and white Zuan Jian kicked the ground and shot out. His two swords appeared in front of Zhuge Duan like a phantom. The long sword in his hand was like the god of death, and it instantly cut across the opponent's neck. Swish. Blood gushed out from the opponent's neck. Seeing this, Lady Zhao's face changed, and she retreated quickly. She was no match at all. If she stayed here, she would be killed. But when she turned around, the surrounding black airflow enveloped her at the same time, shattering her divine power. Puff. The divine power was shattered, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Her own energy was suppressed at this moment. She looked at black and white Zuan Jian. At this moment, black and white Zuan Jian held a long sword in both hands, and his eyes were as strange as a bloodthirsty demon. In his eyes, she was like prey at this moment. If you kill me, you will die too. I'm the woman of General Wan Dugui, Lady Zhao said. Now he can only use Steve Gui to see if he can make the other party afraid. But there was no change in black and white Zuan Jian's eyes, which were full of cruelty and ruthlessness. Boom. A flash of lightning flashed between heaven and earth. Swish. Suddenly, black and white Zuan Jian changed his figure and appeared beside Lady Zhao, ruthlessly inserting the long sword in his hand into the other's body. The terrifying sword energy tore the other's internal organs. A black airflow flowed from the other's body into black and white Zuan Jian's body. Plop. The long sword was retracted, and Lady Zhao fell to the ground. Boom. At this time, thunder roared again in the sky and earth. Then, raindrops began to fall. But black and white Zuan Jian's expression did not change. His eyes looked at a place. After watching for so long, it's time for him to show up. Black and White Zuan Jian looked at a corner of the ruined temple and said coldly. In the dark corner, a figure in a purple robe changed his face, but did not walk out. Swish, but before he could move, Black and White Zuan Jian turned into a thunder and appeared in front of the other party. The long sword in his hand turned into a rolling murderous intent and slashed out. Boom. The corner was instantly shattered and collapsed. The purple-robed figure quickly retreated. Sir, I'm Nangang Shang, the fifth elder of the Nangang family, and I don't want to be your enemy. When Nangang Shang spoke, he looked at the other party with vigilance. The other party's strength was terrifying, and he was no match for him. Originally, he had thought that when Madame Jile and the other party were both injured, he would take away Yajiu Tajima no Kami, but he didn't expect that Madame Jile and the other three would only last a few moves in the hands of the other party. The other party was a bit cruel. Die. Black and White Zuan Jian shouted in a low voice, and the energy on his body burst out. He rushed out, and the two long swords in his hands instantly slashed out, split, and turned into dozens of long swords, piercing the invisible darkness and covering the vital points of Nangang Shang's body. Nangang Shang only felt that he was enveloped by the terrifying sword energy, and his whole body was shaking. Divine power, Xianming Divine Fist. Boom. At the critical moment, Nangang Shang used his divine power to dispel this fear. He punched out, and a violent fist force vortex burst out from his fist, tearing everything apart and colliding with the long sword of Hebei Zuanjian. Bang! The fist force collided with the sword force, and a terrifying airwave burst out. The two figures were shocked back, but at the moment of shock, Hebei Zuanjian's figure was not affected at all, and he turned into a residual image again, and appeared in front of the other party. Your soul will merge into my body. Hebei Zuanjian showed a cold look at the corners of his mouth, appeared in front of the other party, and the two long swords in his hand slashed out instantly. Nangang Shang, who was shocked back, had not yet stabilized his own blood and ki. Hebei Zuanjian had already killed him. He could only punch to resist, but Hebei Zuanjian's attack was swift and violent, and his ki and blood were constantly consumed. More and more blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. Bang! His body was chopped back by a sword, and he lay on the ground with a blurred look in his eyes. He tried to struggle to stand up, but a figure appeared in front of him and stabbed his body with the sword. His eyes darkened and slowly closed. He was powerless to struggle, and he was no match for the opponent. Who is this person? This was his last thought. Chapter 636. Bat Blood Essence, Bone Sculpting and Muscle Coagulating Pill. Boom. The originally dripping raindrops instantly turned into a downpour. Blood continued to flow out with the rain. Yajiu Tajima no Kami took out the corpse powder from his arms and turned all four corpses into a stream of corpse water, which flowed away with the rain. Only a long knife and a short silver spear were left on the ground. The two then disappeared in the rain. At the same time, in a courtyard in Jinling City, in the study, the lights were swaying and seemed to be shaking a little. Du Guiwei, who was standing in the study, suddenly changed his expression and looked outside the house. The rushing raindrops made him frown slightly. I have a bad premonition. This is the second time since I came to Jinling. I'm uneasy. Is there something wrong? Du Guiwei said in a deep voice. At this time, a man in a straw raincoat appeared outside the courtyard, pushed open the door, and appeared outside the study, next to the window. He did not enter the house, but just stood outside. Raindrops flowed from the straw raincoat and hat. His eyes were cold under the bamboo hat, revealing a chill. Nangang Shang left Nangang Mansion and has not returned. Su Chen, the young leader of the Qinglang Society, appeared in Jinling City and met Nangang Kyushu. The branch of Jile Palace was hijacked by the Qinglang Society. The visitor said. Su Chen, the young leader of the Qinglang Society, is the one who teamed up with Bidao in the Lingjiang area. I didn't expect him to come to Jinling City. Du Guiwei's eyes moved slightly. Du Gu Bidao died in the Lingjiang area. In fact, it had a lot to do with Su Chen. If the Qinglang Society hadn't given the previous interests of the Sea Shark Gang to Guan Yushan of Xianaya Pavilion, Guan Yushan would not have been let out, and his son would not have died. Does the Qinglang Society have masters in Jinling? Du Guiwei said. From the information we have received, the 7 dragon leaders of the Qinglang Society, Wei Zhuang are in Jinling City. The visitor said in a deep voice. 7th dragon leader Wei Zhuang? How strong is he? Du Guiwei said in a deep voice. Now, experts have appeared in the Qinglang Club. There are 5 people that caught his attention. The 3rd dragon leader Li Chenzhao, the 4th dragon leader Fu Hongsu, Yan Shizhen, Yi Gucheng, and Zeman Chuxu who just came from the capital. Among them, there are 3 sword masters who are in the Sea of Concentration. They are very powerful. The force that surprised him was rising at a fast speed. It is second only to Xian'an Pavilion. Thinking of Xian'an Pavilion, Du Guiwei's eyes were filled with murderous intent. The last person who benefited from the Lingjiang area was Guan Yushan, and Bu Yongxiao's woman became Guan Yushan's subordinate. So he wanted to seek revenge from Guan Yushan for killing his son. Originally, he was thinking that, after dealing with the affairs of Emperor Wu Hao, he would go to the Lingjiang area to meet Guan Yushan in person. First pay attention to this, Qinglang Club, young dragon leader, and try not to come to me, otherwise, Nangang Wentian will be suspicious. Du Guiwei said. The man in the straw raincoat turned around and left without saying a word. After the man in the straw raincoat left, Du Guiwei frowned slightly. As for why he didn't mention Nangang Shang, it was because Nangang Shang must have been targeting Madame Chile. But he believed that, even if Nangang Shang took action, he would not kill Madame Chile. But the bad premonition just now made Du Guiwei look a little bad. Come here. Du Guiwei whispered. While he was speaking, a man in red walked in from outside the study. The man's face was pale and bloodless, but his fingers were slender and white like a woman's fingers. Maybe this man has the skills in his hands. Lord. The man in red called Du Guiwei the Lord. Lord is the name of the minister to the monarch. It can be seen that Du Guiwei's ambition is not small. Go and investigate the situation of Madame Hong, Du Guiwei said. Madame Chile's real name is Mucan Hong, and Du Guiwei has always called her Madame Hong. Yes. The man in red withdrew. After a while, he walked out of the courtyard with a red umbrella. I hope nothing will happen. Du Guiwei said in his heart. Another place Su Chen stood on the flower boat, watching the rapid rainstorm outside. The rainstorm in Jiangnan was more violent than that in the 9 northern counties, and there were strong winds from time to time. Now this flower boat has been booked by Su Chen alone. In addition to the chef under the building boat, there are only Su Chen and Yuan Suan, as well as the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi in the dark. 2 figures broke through the rain curtain and appeared on the building boat. Yajiu Tajima Kami, his breath was a little messy, and he was pierced by the golden needles, and he was suppressed by the opponent's divine power, so he suffered some injuries in his body. Heal your injuries first. Su Chen asked Yuan Suan to arrange a room for him while he was talking. As for Heli Beizu and Jian, Su Chen planned to let him stay by his side. Compared with Yi Gucheng and others, Heli Beizu and Jian was suitable to stay by his side. The 4 ghosts of Xiangxi might be enough to protect him, but their strength in killing was a little weak. As the young dragon leader, he still needed a master by his side. Who are the people who appeared? Su Chen said. Madame Chile brought 2 people. One of them was able to concentrate her spirit in the sea, and the other had just transformed her Danshan into the sea. Her own strength was able to concentrate her spirit in the sea, and both of them were not strong in spirit. Also, Nangang Shang from the Nangang family appeared, concentrating his spirit in the sea, and all 4 of them were killed. He Beizuanjian replied. I didn't expect that the Nangang family and Jile Palace should have a cooperative relationship. It seems that they want to be the fishermen. What a pity. Su Chen sighed. Su Chen still admired Nangang Qiushu very much. She was beautiful and straightforward. I hope we won't become enemies. Su Chen murmured. He told He Beizuanjian to rest, and he closed the window and went to a room. When Zuangji came today, he brought him some rare treasures, saying that he had obtained some unidentified items from some pawn shops. Zuangji not only runs a bank, but also some pawn shops. Walk into the room. The items were placed in each room, and Zuangji had already helped him to place them. Maybe I can go meet Zuangji's father, Zuang Mingfen, the real owner of the 3rd bank tomorrow. Su Chen thought to himself. With the gold note in hand, let's see how to take it out without attracting attention. As the owner of the third bank, Zhuang Mingfen can definitely do it. He picked up a Buddha head carved from an unknown material in front of him. No reaction. The second one was a somewhat rusty sword blade. Although the sword blade was rusty, it still had a little bit of sword energy left. The moment Su Chen picked it up. Holy Sword Lake, the first swordsman's broken blade. Reward 1 orange lottery card. Holy Sword Lake, the first swordsman's broken blade. Su Chen frowned slightly. He had read a lot of stories recently. He knew that the first swordsman of Holy Sword Lake referred to the first generation sword master of Holy Sword Lake, Han Xiaojin. Back then, he was not only the first swordsman of Holy Sword Lake, but also the first swordsman in the world. But he was a figure from 500 years ago. I didn't expect that this sword blade would be the opponent's broken blade. Continue to investigate. Then he got 2 orange prize cards in a row. Plus the one he has. He now has 4 orange lottery cards. Just draw it. Get 30 years of Yuan Suan's inner strength. Get a drop of bad blood essence. Get a bone shaping and muscle coagulation pill. Get 3 bottles of Shinran pill. 30 pill/bottle. Well, what is a drop of bad blood essence? Su Chen didn't care about the other things. He was concerned about the bad blood essence. After checking, he found that it was given to Yuan Suan. Yuan Suan is called the Bad Prince. After swallowing this bad blood essence, he can circulate the true ki in his body to form a special true ki covering his body, wrapping his body into a bad form, able to see at night, and unparalleled speed. As for the bone shaping and muscle coagulation pill, it helps warriors reshape their bones and can be given to Fu Hongxue to treat his lameness. Chapter 637 Nangang Yiren, Yuan Suan takes action. The next day, the blazing sun was hanging high in the sky. The weather seemed a bit sultry. A red figure appeared at the ruined temple last night. Looking at the ground washed by rain and the 2 weapons left on the ground, the man in red changed his expression and checked carefully. After a moment, he muttered, "There are not many clues, but the battle range has not left this area. The strength of the people coming is much stronger than them." Then his eyes looked at a place. A figure came out from there, wearing a green robe. "Nangang Kingsun, your Nangang family is here too," the man in red said as he looked at the figure that appeared. "There are 2 people on the other side. They are very strong. There is no suspense in the battle. 1 person killed 4 people." The man called Nangang Kingsun said, "Who are you coming?" Hearing this, the man in red frowned and said, "Nangang Shang." Nangang Kingsun said, 3 people who were concentrating their spirits in the sea were crushed and killed, and their bodies were destroyed. There were no useful clues at the scene. The person who came was not only strong, but also had extraordinary thoughts. When the man in red spoke, a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Yes, he is very strong. But the people of my Nangang family will not die like this." "How did you find the other party?" the man called Nangang Kingsun said. "There were some before, but not now." The man in red turned and left. The clues were washed away by the rain, and the remaining traces could not be distinguished at all. There was no point in staying here. The great Keely Leng just gave up like this. Nangang Kingsun said, "If you Nangang family can find this person, you can contact me, and I will take action." The man in red quickened his pace, and in a blink of an eye, only a red after image was seen. It seems that they can no longer find this person. This matter must be reported to the head of the family as soon as possible. People from my Nangang family were killed in Jingling. If it is spread out, it will damage the reputation of my Nangang family. Nangang Kingsun frowned slightly. He came here early to investigate. The reason he didn't leave was that he wanted to wait for Dugu and his people to come and see if he could find the person through them. Now it seems that the other party can no longer find the person who took the gold ticket. After thinking for a moment, he turned around and left quickly. Jinling Lake, outside the Su Chen Lao boat, the lakeside. An exquisite carriage slowly came to the flower boat, where Su Chen was. A white-dressed Zhuangji got off the carriage. Su Chen's identity had been investigated, so she didn't hide it and came directly. Today she was taking Su Chen to see his father Zhuang Mingfen. But when she got off the car, another carriage appeared beside the river. Nangang Yiren, wearing a purple long skirt and with a beautiful face, got off the carriage. Nangang Yiren. Zhuangji frowned slightly. She didn't expect Nangang Yiren to come here. After Nangang Yiren got off the car, two maids got off the carriage. They carried a box. In the box were some ancient books borrowed by Nangang Kyushu from the Nangang family library. Nangang Kyushu was supposed to come, but Nangang Kingsuan returned and brought back the news of Nangang Shang's death, so Nangang Yiren came instead of her. Zuangji didn't expect you to be here too. I forgot to hear that your fiancé, Jiang Bhuo Xingchen, was killed. I didn't expect you to be an unmarried widow at such a young age. Nangang Yiren looked at Zuangji and said coldly. Although Nangang Yiren usually looks charming, this Nangang Yiren is different from Nangang Kyushu. She has been going back and forth among the talents in Jiangnan. She lacks a little temperament, so when ranking on the Xiangxan list, Nangang Yiren's ranking is still below Zuangji. While Nangang Yiren was speaking, a figure walked out of the carriage. The person who came was a young man in a green robe with narrow eyes. When he saw Zuangji, his eyes lit up. Miss Zuang, I thought that after Brother Xingchen was killed, you would go to Jiangbihuoji as Huang, but I didn't expect you to be in Jinling City. The young man in the green robe said in a low voice. My business is none of your business. Zuangji's eyes turned cold, and he ignored the two and headed for the ship. You have ideas about her, but the identity of a widow is actually very suitable for her, and you may have a chance to get it. Nangang Yiren looked at Zuangji walking in front and said, Yiren, who are we going to see? The young man did not continue to speak, but spoke. Chen, the young leader of the Qinglang Society, these ancient books are for him. Nangang Yiren said. While speaking, his expression began to change, and his eyes became tender, which was completely different from the situation when he spoke before. The young man next to him looked a little dull. He followed him to the ship, but his figure was stopped by Yuan Suan. He was dressed in white, a gentleman, and he exuded the aura of a child from a noble family. Nangang Yiren saw Yuan Suan's eyes become bright. Who are you? Yuan Suan said. You are Chen, the young leader of the Qinglang Society. The young man next to Nangang Yiren spoke. You are looking for Xiaolong Xiao. Yuan Suan's eyes condensed and he spoke. I'm Nangang Yiren. This is the ancient book that my sister asked me to bring. I wonder who you are? Nangang Yiren heard that Yuan Suan was not Chen, and her expression did not change. Yuan Suan's temperament attracted her very much. I'm Yuan Suan, the steward of Xiaolong Xiao. Xiaolong Xiao will go out soon. You can just give me the things. When Yuan Suan spoke, he gently grabbed the boxes in the hands of the maids and put them into the ship. He did not intend to let them see Chen. Chen was going to visit Zuangji's father, Zuang Mingfen, the owner of the third largest bank in the world. Today, you are just a steward. How dare you be so presumptuous? Hearing that Yuan Suan was just a steward, the young man in green robe had a cold look in his eyes. A sound wave came out of his mouth, and the sound wave gathered into a sharp sword and went towards Yuan Suan. Just now, he observed Nangang Yiren and found that Nangang Yiren obviously had a good impression of this kid, and the other part his identity was just a steward, so he wanted to teach this kid a lesson. Yuan Suan's eyes turned cold, and a burst of ki burst out of his body, instantly shattering the sound wave that was impacting, and a surging wave of air swept towards the opponent. Bang! The young man in green robe was directly thrown backwards by the air wave, fell on the lakeside, and spurted out a mouthful of blood. Dare to attack. Yuan Suan did not kill him, which was already polite. Yuan Suan got 30 years of internal strength last night, and now his danshan has turned into a sea, and his true energy is terrifying. And he also got a drop of bad blood. Now he can't beat the powerful man in Shanghai, but the opponent can never catch up with him. You are looking for death. Do you know who I am? Kill him for me. The injured young man said sternly. A man in black appeared behind him, and the man appeared and attacked directly. His palm grabbed Yuan Suan's head, and the ki on his palm surged like a sharp blade. Yuan Sui's eyes condensed, and he jumped out. He grabbed his waist and the soft sword was unsheathed in an instant. A flash of light appeared, and it pierced through the opponent's palm and throat as fast as lightning. Swish! Blood flowed out, and then a body fell to the ground. Chapter 638, Lord Shanding appears. Kunlun revives. Kinglan Club, Cheyenne Pavilion, is in danger. Silence. The scene became silent. At this time, Yuan Suan had sheathed his sword. His movements were graceful and his swordsmanship was sharp. He glanced at Nangang Yiren and said, "Leave your things here, you can go." His voice was cold. Nangang Yiren's beautiful eyes changed. "I want to pay a visit to young Dragon Chief." Although Yuan Suan surprised her, she came to see Su Chen, so she wanted to meet Su Chen. At this time, Su Chen came down from the ship. "This is Nangang Kyushu's twin sister, Nangang Yiren." Zhuang Zhuangji, who was next to Su Chen, said, "Miss Nangang, I have to go out for something this time. See you next time, if there is a chance." Su Chen had known about the appearance of Nangang Yiren and the others on the ship. Some news about Nangang Yiren made Su Chen realize that this woman appeared gentle, but had many calculations in her heart. Su Chen did not like people who were two-faced, so he did not plan to have too much contact with the other party. After that, he walked out of the ship with Zhuang Zhuangji and entered Zhuang Zhuangji's carriage. Yuan Suan also closed the ship and followed him away. Nangang Yiren and the young man in blue were left behind. Nangang Yiren looked at the departing carriage. A light flashed in her beautiful eyes. She walked up to the young man in blue, a look of disgust on her face, and then she got on the carriage and left. Qinglang Society, Su Chen, Yuan Suan, Li Musheng, will not let you go. The young man had a ferocious look on his face. The young man's name is Li Musheng, and he is the third son of the Li family, the second-ranked family in Jinling City. On the carriage, the young man just now is named Li Musheng. Zhuang Zhuangji said. Previously, Zhuang Zhuangji compiled a list of the noble families and forces in Jinling City and gave it to Su Chen. When Su Chen heard this name, he should know who it is. Li family, Red Sun Palace, no problem. Now the strength of the Green Dragon Society gives him confidence. At this time in the capital, the residence of Taibao Nyan Jinlin. Nyan Jinlin looked at Bai Chaofei. "I wonder when I can meet with Deputy Pavilion Master Tai." Deputy Pavilion Master Tai and Deputy Pavilion Master Yao Iu. "This time we came here, actually for the Falling God Pearl. What does the Grand Tutor think about this matter?" Bai Chaofei did not mention the Evil League's attack on the Imperial Master, but mentioned Luotian Pearl. Now he was very surprised by the Evil League's siege of the Imperial Master. Imperial Master, the teacher of the current Emperor Zhao. Such a person, the Evil League actually wants to surround and kill the other party. The Great Zhao dynasty has not responded yet, which makes people extremely suspicious. Although the Evil League said that the Emperor Zhao would seek a breakthrough that day and most of the forces would be gathered in the Imperial City, they should also take some action instead of being so calm. That's why they secretly spied on him. Nyan Jinlin, the eldest prince's teacher, one of the real backers of the eldest prince's lineage. Previously, Bai Chaofei deliberately approached the Nyan mansion in order to maintain stability in the capital. Letters, Golden Wind and Drizzle Tower, at that time survived that period of weak strength. Falling God Pearl, the most desired thing for the sea concentrated strong men. If Deputy Pavilion Master Tai gets the Falling God Pearl, he will definitely go one step further. Nyan Jinlin seemed to be unaware of it. He only mentioned Luotian Pearl, and didn't mention anything else. Upon hearing this, Bai Chaofei's expression did not change. This time Deputy Pavilion Master Tai is determined to get it. Bai Chaofei said, "Only by killing the Imperial Master can one obtain the Goddess of Luo River, which means that Tai Zhangtang will kill the Imperial Master. The Goddess of Luo River is not easy to obtain. If you want to get that thing, you may have to pay the price of your life." Deputy Pavilion Master Tai is strong, but there are many strong people in the world. I hope that after the 15th day of the full moon, we will meet with Deputy Pavilion Master Tai. I hope you can convey this sentence to Deputy Pavilion Master Tai. "I'm old. I need to sit for a while. My body is not as good as before. I'll rest first, and I won't keep you any longer." After saying this, Nyan Jinlin stood up and said that it was time to drive the guests away. Bai Chaofei stood up and said goodbye to Nyan Jinlin. Leaving the Nyan mansion, Bai Chaofei got on the carriage. Nyan Jinlin said, "So, what does it show?" It shows that the Imperial Master is not ordinary in strength, or he is not optimistic about these people dealing with the Imperial Master. Of course, Beiqiaofei knew that the purpose of the Evil Alliance was mainly to deal with Zhenwu Garden, but why the battle between the Imperial Master and Zhenwu Garden would cause turmoil in Zhenwu Garden, he did not understand the relationship at all. And yesterday Chen came to ask, as the head of the Xianjian division, she did not know that something would happen on the 15th day of the full moon. The Xianjian division deliberately blocked the news. In addition, Chen said that the deputy supervisor of the Xianjian division who was in charge of the divine gods had already left the capital. The people of the Xianjian division will not help the Imperial Master's mansion. What a mystery. Beiqiaofei thought in his heart. Taizan Tang will join forces with the Evil Alliance to destroy the Zhenwu Garden, but the 4 great masters of concentration from the Qinglang Society will gather together and will definitely surround and kill the Imperial Master. The Luotian Pearl of the Evil Alliance must be obtained by them. The 4 great masters of concentration from the sea gathered in the capital. It is impossible that they are just here for a show. What's more, it's not just the Qinglang Society. Many powerful killers have already appeared. The Imperial Master and the strong men of the Great Zhao Dynasty gathered in the Imperial City, so they can't help him, and will definitely die. We must find out something useful in the next few days. Beiqiaofei said. Now that the Golden Wind and Rain Tower has expanded, it has developed a lot of spies. The ability to detect is stronger than before, several times stronger. Some information was quickly gathered at the Golden Wind and Rain Tower. He planned to collect these messages in the next period of time and combine them with the information obtained from the Evil Alliance. Finally, see if he can get any information. Back to the Golden Wind and Rain Tower, Nalan Rangan appeared in front of him. Something happened. Xian Dinggong has arrived in Longbei County. 3 people appeared beside him. These 3 people are guests of the Ministry of Personnel. They are suspected to be powerful people who have entered the sea to concentrate their minds. Nalan Rangan said solemnly. What? Hearing this, Beiqiaofei's face changed. In the previous intelligence, it was only reported that Xian Dinggong took 1 person to the 9 northern counties. Now there are 3 people around him, and they may all be powerful people who have concentrated their minds in the sea. Is he going to go to war with the Qinglang Society? Beiqiaofei said in a deep voice. Not only that, after Xian Dinggong entered the 9 northern counties, he went directly to Qinglang Temple. I have already passed the news to Mr. Zhuge. Nalan Rangan continued. Are you going to Qinglang Temple? This is really bad news. Pass the news to the young master immediately. Beiqiaofei ordered. Lord Xianding went to the Qinglang Temple, definitely not to worship Buddha, probably to join forces with the Qinglang Temple. Qinglang Temple was originally the dominant force in the 9 northern counties. Although it is closed, there are definitely masters among them. If it joins forces with Lord Xianding, then the current strength of the Qinglang Society in the 9 northern counties may not be able to defeat it head-on. It needs the secret help of Guan Yushan and the ancient Santong and Lingjiang areas outside the Great Wall. While he was thinking, a disciple came to Beiqiaofei quickly with a secret letter. Beiqiaofei looked at the mark on the secret letter. His eyes condensed. That was the mark that indicated that he and Chen had agreed to contact each other in an extremely urgent manner. He took the secret letter. He opened it to check. Then his face changed. Seeing the change in Beiqiaofei's face, Nalan Rangan took the secret letter and her face changed drastically. The Kunlun faction outside the Great Wall has revived and is preparing to besiege the stronghold of the East Pavilion of the Xian'ai Pavilion in Xianshan. Spread the news immediately. Beiqiaofei ordered. This news is extremely unfavorable to the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion and Qinglang Club. Chapter 639 Kunlun faction moves. Zhuge Zhengwo's pressure. Outside the Great Wall, Kunlun sect. In the main hall, the headmaster Yuan Zuzi, wearing a purple robe, has a white face and looks about 40 years old, but his actual age is definitely older. Yuan Zuzi became the headmaster earlier than Huo Mufeng of Xianshan sect. However, he was not as strong as Huo Mufeng. After being defeated by Huo Mufeng, Kunlun sect closed the mountain. Behind him, there were 3 old men. One of the old men had white hair and beard, and looked very old. One of the other 2 had a pale face, and seemed to be injured. The other one had black hair and black beard, a burly figure, and a gleam in his eyes. These 3 people are the 3 elders of Kunlun sect. The white-haired and white-bearded old man in the lead is named Gui Yixing. The second elder is Yimue with black hair and black beard, a burly figure, and the third elder is pale and looks injured, named Hideo Sheng. The strength of these 4 people is concentrated in the sea. In terms of overall strength, Kunlun sect is much stronger than the previous Xianshan sect. But back then, the first and second elders of Kunlun sect were seriously injured by the people behind Huo Mufeng, and the leader Yuan Zuzi was no match for Huo Mufeng, so they were forced to close the mountain. However, the first and second elders have recovered from their injuries, and their strength has been further improved. It can be said that Kunlun sect is very powerful now. Of course, in addition to these 4 people, there are 2 more people in the palace. One is wearing a black robe, with grey hair and deep eyes, and the other is a middle-aged man with a white face and a cold expression. They can be in the hall with Yuan Zuzi and the other 4. There is no need to think about the strength of these 2 people. They must be concentrating in the sea. They are masters invited by Kunlun sect. Brother Yuangsu, you are a little too concerned about this Xian'ai Pavilion. From the information we have received, this Xian'ai Pavilion currently only has the strength of Pavilion Master Gu Santong and Deputy Pavilion Master Zhu Wuxi who are concentrating in the sea. Even if Elder he is injured, with the strength of the 5 of us, we are completely capable of crushing the opponent. The man with a stern expression said in a deep voice, Brother Zhu, you can't underestimate the other party. I know Huo Mufeng's strength. Back then, my divine power was completely suppressed by the other party, and I was no match for him. They can kill Huo Mufeng, so they must be stronger than me. The record of Zhu Wuxi is unknown, but some news came from the capital. Tai Zhangtang, the deputy pavilion master of the North Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion, killed 3 sea concentrated masters by himself. His divine power is so strong. The deputy pavilion master of the South Pavilion, Yao Yu, was able to fight Kenjuan of Zenwu Garden. His divine power must be extraordinary, so you can't underestimate the pavilion master and deputy pavilion master of the East Pavilion. Since we are going to take action, we must strike once, destroy the opponent, and don't give him a chance to counterattack. Yuan Zuzi said in a deep voice. Yes, we can't underestimate the opponent, Yuan Zhu. There is no time to lose. Since we have chosen to take action, we must act quickly, and don't give the opponent a chance to explore. Once the opponent's support arrives, we may not be able to defeat him. The old man in black robe and white hair said in a deep voice. Lingjiang area Guan Yushan, the general envoy of Xian'ai Pavilion, took down the Jiangxia League. Although it was rumored that Bu Yongxiao was assassinated by Feng Langju and the King Langhu killers, but Guan Yushan was able to kill Feng Langju and suppress the old members of Jiangxia League, which shows his strong strength. If they get the news and support here, I'm afraid they will not be sure of winning. So they need to act immediately and not give the other party time to arrive. Let's do it today. The 5 of us will surround and kill Gu Santong and Zhu Wuxi, and Elder he will be injured, and surround and kill other members of Xian'ai Pavilion. Yuan Zuzi said. As the headmaster, once he decides to move, he will not retreat. After that, the 6 people started to move. Then the entire Kunlun sect followed suit. There were 2 groups of people in total. One group was Yuan Zuzi and 6 people, and 2 Danshan who are Hei strongmen. The other group was the ordinary 4 Xianren Jiunan, who took other disciples of Kunlun sect to go out. At this time, Lingnan County Shan Gate, Zhu Zhengwo looked at the returned secret letter with a solemn look. The Kunlun sect has come out and is going to attack the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion. The battle outside the Great Wall is about to break out. Mr. Shanding brought people into the Qinglan Temple. The motives and specific conversations must be investigated. Zhu Zhengwo looked at the secret letter and said in a deep voice, these news have just come. Although it is quite shocking. But Zhu Zhengwo is very calm. The more things he encounters, the calmer he should be. His palms pressed on the table. He thought about it. Xianshan outside the Great Wall. He could only send a message immediately to inform Zhu Washi and others. Everything still needs Gu Santong and others to face the Kunlun sect by themselves this time of siege. Because according to the time when the news came, the other party was ready. It would not give them time to mobilize manpower to support. Of course, the East Pavilion of Cheyenne Pavilion is not weak now. The strength of Gu Santong and Zhu Washi is absolutely strong in the sea. Gu Santong practiced the Vajra indestructible, and Zhu Washi practiced the absorbing power Dafa. Neither of them is afraid of siege. There is also Guan Qi. He doesn't know the specific situation, but Guan Qi reached the breakthrough point of divine power some time ago. Even if he hasn't broken through now, Guan Qi will definitely break through after a battle. Once Guan Qi breaks through to the sea of concentration, it will definitely not be an ordinary sea of concentration. With such strength, even if he can't win, it won't be a problem to take people away. His focus now is Xiandingong, who came to the 9 northern counties this time. Xiandingong is one of the giants of the Ministry of Personnel of the Great Zhao Dynasty. He came with 3 Sea of Concentration Masters. This already shows that he wants to deal with them. Qinglang Society. Otherwise why bring so many masters here? Not to mention that they went to Qinglang Temple. Now Qinglang Temple not only has Xiandingong, but also people from Dashan Temple. If you are not careful, these 3 parties may join forces. At that time, the pressure on Qinglang Society will be great. It seems that we have to find a way to contact Wuhe, Zhu Zhengwo said in a deep voice. Wuhe is extremely talented in Buddhism. When Su Chen left Shanmen, he had already comprehended some of the essence of the Great Sutra of Life and Death, and left Shanmen and went to Qinglang Temple. Of course, Wuhe is now just a guest monk in Qinglang Temple. Although he is a guest monk, his talent in Buddhism makes the monks of Qinglang Temple admire Wuhe very much. There is a vague intention to let Wuhe join Qinglang Temple, but monk Wuhe has not agreed yet. But Wuhe is in Qinglang Temple, so he must be able to find out some of the conversations. After thinking for a while, Zhu Zhengwo called A Fei. A Fei is a character who appeared with Jing Wuming. But Jing Wuming and Shangwen Jinhong went to the capital, while A Fei stayed in Shan to practice. Now A Fei's strength has also reached the 6 difficulties of heaven and man, and his speed is a little slower than Jing Wuming. Go and contact Wuhe secretly to see if you can find out what Xiandingong talked about with Qinglang Temple, and what the masters in Qinglang Temple are doing. Zhu Zhengwo said to Ah Fei. Yes. After Ah Fei received the order, he quickly left Shan Gate and went to Qinglang Temple. After Ah Fei left, Zhu Zhengwo went to the back mountain to meet Yi Di and Rihao, because Shan Gate might become the target of the other party's attack. He needed to know their specific strength. Chapter 640, Cheyenne Pavilion, East Pavilion, Encountered Siege. Cheyenne Pavilion, East Pavilion. In a courtyard, Gu Santong looked at Cheng Shifei who was slacking off in the courtyard, frowning. He had been here for so long, thinking about improving this kid's strength. But this kid couldn't stand hardship, and was lazy all day. In his previous life, Cheng Shifei became a master, after receiving his own skills, and practicing the unique skills of the 8 major sects. But in this world, although he mastered the unique skills of the 8 major sects and his Vajra indestructible divine skill, he did not get his skills, so his strength was a little weak. During this period, he was under the care, and his strength improved a little, but it was still too slow. Cheng Shifei is his and Suzin's son. Zhu Wuxi has no children, so he regards Cheng Shifei as his own son. There are many treasures in Xianshan, and Zhu Wuxi gave him a lot of them. To improve his strength, he mainly needs treasures. I have to talk to Lao Zhu when I have time. I can't spoil him. Gu Santong said in his heart. In this world, the grudges between the two have been resolved. They were friends back then. It's just that Zhu Wuxi was too ambitious back then, thinking about seeking power and usurping the throne. Now in this world, he no longer has the ambition for imperial power, because this world is dominated by martial arts. More emphasis is placed on martial arts practice. When he thought of Zhu Wuxi, a Zhu Wuxi in a brocade robe appeared in the courtyard. Seeing Zhu Wuxi, Cheng Shifei, who was sneaking around in the courtyard, immediately stepped forward. Godfather, my father, forcing me to practice again. It's so boring. This is some Xiantian snow lotus pills that I just refined by reading the Xiantian sex classics. It can help you improve your internal strength. Zhu Wuxi looked at Cheng Shifei and took out a bottle of pills from his arms. Old boo, you don't need to make Shifei practice so hard. His personality doesn't like to practice quietly. Forcing him may sometimes be useless. What's more, he has your Vajra indestructible divine art, plus the unique skills of the 8 major sects, and has already been integrated. As long as he improves his internal strength, he can do it. There is no need to worry about the foundation. Zhu Wuxi looked at Gu Santang. You just pamper this kid. Now the master has many strong men under his command. I got the news that Guan Yushan's strength is at the broken level. Although he can't use all his strength, he may be able to suppress you and me. Gu Santang's eyes flashed when he spoke. Gu Santang is a martial arts fanatic. What he meant by saying this is that he wants to fight with Guan Yushan and see the strength of the broken level strong. Not only Guan Yushan, Taizong Tang of the North Pavilion killed 3 people in the Sea of Concentration in the capital, and his divine power overwhelmed the Zenwu Garden. By Xian'ai Pavilion, East Pavilion, the momentum, but it was overshadowed by others. Zhu Wuxi said. Gu Santang was concerned about the other party's martial arts. Zhu Wuxi was concerned about the status of the East Pavilion. Although the East Pavilion settled outside the Great Wall, it could not be limited to the outside of the Great Wall. You will do these things. Didn't Xian'ai go to the capital? After this time, you let him bring Liu Shengpiaoxu and his daughter back to our East Pavilion. Won't the strength of the East Pavilion increase? Gu Santang said. Yeah, Jiu Tajimano Kami, I'm afraid that he may not be able to come to our East Pavilion, but I'm going to write a letter to the master, asking them to assign these 2 people to our East Pavilion. Zhu Wuxi said. How about Gui Heidao and Guan Qi? Gui Heidao is breaking through the Danshan transformation sea today, and Guan Qi's own divine power is condensing. I don't know to what extent it has reached, but Haitang has detected some movements from the Kunlun sect. I'm afraid they will attack us. Zhu Wuxi said in a deep voice. Attacking us, isn't that what you want? Although Huo Mufeng's power was not absorbed by you, the power of another sea concentrating strongman from the Xiantian sect was absorbed by you. Now I may not be your opponent. If the Kunlun sect comes to attack, it can make you stronger. I really hope they will attack. Gu Santang said. That's right. Zhu Wuxi smiled when he heard it. At this time, Shangguan Haitang, dressed in white, rushed into the courtyard. 2 pavilion masters, there is something unusual happening in Kunlun sect. After hearing the news, all the masters in the sect left and came towards us. Shangguan Haitang said. I didn't expect that they would really start a fight. Zhu Wuxi's face changed. Although they had spoken very simply before, once they started to fight, the newly built East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion would suffer losses. Let's go. Let's go to the main hall and meet them. I think some people should have arrived. Gu Santang. The 4 people left quickly. When they came to the main hall of the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion, 5 figures fell from the sky and blocked their way. Gu Santang, the pavilion master of the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion, and Zhu Wuxi, the deputy pavilion master. The leader Yuan Zuzi looked at Gu Santang and Zhu Wuxi and said. As for Shangguan Haitang and Cheng Shifei behind them, he didn't pay attention. You go help others. Zhu Wuxi sent a message to Cheng Shifei and Shangguan Haitang. After hearing this, the 2 did not dare to stay and turned to leave. These people are very powerful. If they are not careful, they will die in the hands of the other party. Yuan Zuzi. Gu Santang did not speak, but Zhu Wuxi said, you Kunlun sect just came into being, and you do this. I'm afraid that after today, the 1000-year foundation will be destroyed. Deputy Pavilion Master Zhu, the 2 of you can still be so natural in the face of our 5 sea concentrated masters. I really admire you. Yuan Zuzi said calmly. Because Gu Santang and Zhu Wuxi were too calm, he was more cautious. Now they stopped Gu Santang and Zhu Wuxi. Among the 3 elders, Hideo Sheng has taken 2 Danshin who are Hei Realm Masters to the backyard. As long as there is a massacre in the backyard, I believe the other party will be more anxious than them. At this time, in a secret room in the backyard, Gui Hideo's aura was surging, and his blood and ki began to violently riot. A stream of terrifying energy continued to pour into his Danshin. Under the action of this force, power continued to burst out from his Danshin, gradually forming a huge vortex. The vortex appeared and expanded, causing the ki to flow, grow, and surge. Danshin changes at a speed visible to the naked eye. As long as this state and speed continue, he will be able to step into Danshin transformation C. At this time, outside the secret room where he is, a scream was heard, and then a figure flew to the ground, with a hot palm print on his chest. A man in a green robe stepped into the courtyard. Before coming, just after entering the backyard, he caught a disciple of the East Pavilion, the disciple who was just killed by him with a palm. Knowing that someone was in seclusion here, and the other party's identity was not simple, he came to kill Gui Hideo in person. This person's name is Zuchu, a strong man of the Kunlun sect who has transformed Danshin into the sea. He and another strong man of Danshin transformation C followed the third elder to attack and kill first, and some other masters of the East Pavilion of Shianya Pavilion. Looking at the stone door of the secret room in front of him, his eyes turned cold, and he punched out. Boom. The terrifying fist force burst out from his fist. Bang. The stone door was instantly shattered. At the moment of shattering, a figure with unstable breath rushed out from the stone gate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 641 Send you on your way, Gui Hideo, Guanqi, the innate invisible sword energy. The unstable breath was Gui Hideo. Gui Hideo was just attacking the Danshin transformation C, and at the moment of breakthrough, a burst of ki hit the stone gate. So although he stepped into the Danshin transformation C, his breath seemed a little unstable. He looked at Zushan, who was wearing green clothes in the courtyard. Just broke through the Danshin transformation C. It's a pity that you will die today. Looking at Gui Hideo who appeared, Zushan said with a cold expression. He just broke through the Danshin transformation C, and his ki and blood were still unstable, so he didn't care at all. Who are you? Gui Hideo looked at the other party with an unchanged expression. Although the other party was Danshin transformation C, he could kill. But this is the East Pavilion of Shianya Pavilion. Why can the other party come in and attack so unscrupulously? Let you be a ghost. Kunlun sect Zushan, kill you today. Zushan spoke and moved his body, punched out, and a hot power ki appeared on his fist, heading towards Gui Hideo. Gui Hideo's eyes condensed. The long sword in his hand slashed out. The hot energy that rushed in was cut off by a knife. The cut energy spread out in all directions and disappeared. Seeing this, Zushan's eyes condensed. He didn't expect Gui Hideo to cut off his fist energy so easily. If you only have this much strength, then I will kill you with one knife. When he was surprised, Gui Hideo's voice rang in his ears. What? Zushan's face showed a furious look, but at this time, Gui Hideo's figure disappeared in front of him. It was so fast. It appeared behind him in the blink of an eye. Sensing the breath behind him, Zushan backhanded a palm and slapped behind him, and at the same time, his footsteps burst out with power and rushed towards Gui Hideo. The red blood flaming yang energy flowed in his body, and the blood red flame energy burst out from his palm. Zushan had put away his contempt at this moment. He burst out with all his strength, and he wanted to kill Gui Hideo with one palm. Behind him, Gui Hideo's expression did not change. With this little strength, you dare to kill me? Send you on your way. Gui Hideo said coldly. As he spoke, the ki in his body burst out, and the long sword he held burst out with a terrifying ki. He slashed with the sword, and the sword ki collided with the fist ki, making a rumbling sound. But when this rumbling sound broke out, Gui Hideo's figure shot out, and turned into a residual image. He appeared in front of the opponent and slashed with the long sword in an instant. After the flash of the sword, Zhu Shan's body was split into two, and blood spurted out. Gui Heyudeo did not stop and turned around. The reason why he did not entangle with the opponent and tried his best to kill the opponent was that he was worried about Shangguan Heitang's safety. In the last life, he failed to protect Shangguan Heitang. In this life, he would not allow Shangguan Heitang to be in any danger. When he stepped out of the courtyard, Shangguan Heitang and Cheng Shifei had already arrived. They were also worried about Gui Heyudeo's safety. "Heitang, are you okay?" "I'm fine. The Kunlun faction attacked us, Xian'ai Pavilion. The pavilion master and his men have been blocked. 5C concentrated masters stopped them. We were afraid that you were in danger, so we came here immediately. I just broke through, and my aura hasn't stabilized yet, and the other party appeared, but I killed him. There should be others. Let's go to Mr. Guan Qi first. I have someone here, and there should be someone on Mr. Guan Qi's side," Gui Hei said with a knife. Although the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion occupies Xianshan, there are not many real Xian'ai Pavilion people among them. The others are the Ghost Domain people who were gathered earlier. Dugu Wudi and his men are stationed in the Ghost Domain, so apart from them, only Guan Qi is a real Xian'ai Pavilion person. The three of them are going to meet Guan Qi before helping other disciples. At this time, Guan Qi is in seclusion. Two figures appear. Zhu Shan goes to deal with the other person, and Hideo Sheng and another person come to deal with Guan Shan. Because they knew it from the captured disciples of Xian'ai Pavilion, this retreat time is a bit long. So Hideo Sheng and another person came. Third Elder, this Xian'ai Pavilion seems a bit empty. There are no masters. A person next to Hideo Sheng said. This person was wearing a tight suit, his palms were broad and powerful, his body was strong and powerful, and his exposed muscles had blood red lines, and he exuded a terrifying evil spirit. There was some disdain in his eyes. The rumors outside Xian'ai Pavilion were not simple, but when they entered the East Pavilion, they found that there were no masters. Don't be careless, this is not Xian'ai Pavilion. The East Pavilion headquarters is occupied by the Xianshan sect, and the power has not been transferred. If it is transferred, we may not be able to take them down, Hideo Sheng said. He was pale and his injuries had not healed completely. While speaking, the big man in tight clothes punched out with a punch, directly cracking the secret room. Although he was disdainful, he was extremely cautious. The stone door was blasted, but there was silence. It seemed as if there was no one in the secret room. The strong man in tight clothes focused his eyes and sensed the breath inside, but he found nothing. He looked at the third elder Hideo Sheng. Hideo Sheng's eyes lit up and he said, the person inside should be trying to break through, restraining his breath, and concentrating his mind. The other party is concentrating his divine power and wants to step into the sea to concentrate. Hearing this, a cold light flashed in the eyes of the strong man, and he stopped and immediately accelerated his pace, concentrating his divine power, trying to break through. He would not let the other party have the opportunity to step into the sea to concentrate. When he entered the secret room, a burly body was sitting in it. The other party had a rough face, a burly figure, and exposed muscles like bronze. The aura around him did not leak out, but circulated in his body, and his eyes were forcing, as if he was feeling it. When the strong man looked at the other party suddenly closed his eyes. There was a terrifying sword energy flashing in his eyes, and a terrifying evil spirit burst out of his body. This evil spirit suppressed the evil spirit emanating from the strong man. The moment he opened his eyes, the strong man was affected. He seemed to see a monster with terrifying power accumulated in his body. Who are you? Disturbing my concentration of divine power. Guan Qi looked at him calmly. His tone was extremely calm. Concentrating divine power, you won't have a chance. Today is your death. Although the strong man was affected, he was a Danshan Huahei strongman after all, and he was followed by the third elder, so he didn't need to be afraid of him. Die. Extreme evil blood Yuan fist. As he spoke, a terrifying blood evil power burst out from the strong man, and his footsteps instantly exerted force. Bang. A huge explosion sounded under his feet, and his figure shot out violently, appearing in front of Guan Qi, and his fist hit Guan Qi's face heavily. The huge blood evil power instantly exploded the airflow, and countless air was squeezed under his blood evil fist, to form a stronger power fluctuation. Blood was everywhere. Facing this blow, Guan Qi stood up suddenly, and the innate invisible sword energy in his body instantly condensed on his fist. He punched out. The sword energy that burst out from the fist was sharp, violently shattering the opponent's ki, and punched the opponent's chest. Bang! In this terrifying force, the body of the strong man was blown away, flying backwards like a cannonball, flying out of the door of the secret room, landing on the ground. Outside the secret room, Hideo Sheng's eyes condensed. He wanted to see the injury of the strong man. Bang! The opponent's chest exploded, and invisible sword energy burst out, shattering his internal organs. Just after punching, Guan Qi injected the innate invisible sword energy into the opponent's body. Because Guan Qi noticed that there was another person outside, although the breath of that person was unstable, he was definitely a strong man with a concentrated mind in the sea. Chapter 642, The Invisible Power of God, Guan Qi's Cruelty. Looking at the strong man in the suit, who died violently in front of him, Hideo Sheng's eyes became extremely ugly. He looked at Guan Qi. Although the opponent did not condense the divine power and stepped into the sea to concentrate, he easily killed a strong man from Kunlun sect who had his Danshan turned into the sea. His strength should not be underestimated. Of course, what surprised him was that the opponent stopped the condensation of his divine power without hesitation. You know, if a warrior fails to condense the divine power for the first time, it is not so easy to condense the divine power again. But this Guan Qi actually interrupted the condensation of the divine power without hesitation, killing Guan Qi. When you first entered the frontier, you haven't stepped into the 9 difficulties of heaven and man, but now you are attacking the sea to concentrate the spirit. It's amazing that your foundation is still so solid. Hideo Sheng couldn't help coughing when he spoke. Some time ago, he was injured by someone and has not fully recovered yet. The person who severely injured him and attacked him left with one blow. Although his strength was not as good as the concentration in the sea, his attack was extremely fast. He was careless and was attacked by the opponent. He always thought it was someone from Shyanaya Pavilion. But when he entered the backyard of Shyanaya Pavilion, he did not find any trace of that person. His heart darkened. Thinking back, someone had contacted their Kunlun sect before to deal with Shyanaya Pavilion. But they had just come out, and the strength of Shyanaya Pavilion was not clear, so they did not move. And the other party did not urge them again, as if they had disappeared. But not long after, he was seriously injured by a sneak attack, and the momentum of Shyanaya Pavilion outside was getting bigger and bigger. They sensed the danger. Kunlun was the first force outside the Great Wall back then. Although it was defeated by Huo Mufeng of Xianshan sect, if there was no help from Huo Mufeng behind him, Xianshan sect was not the opponent of their Kunlun sect at all. Xianshan sect was occupied by the East Pavilion of Shyanaya Pavilion, and Kunlun sect came out. Of course, the strength of Shyanaya Pavilion was not that strong at that time, so they did not sense the threat. Now Shyanaya Pavilion is so powerful that it will never allow Kunlun sect to exist. How can others sleep beside the bed? So they had to take action. Destroy the East Pavilion of Shyanaya Pavilion, and then find allies to confront Shyanaya Pavilion. Get rid of these ideas. He wanted to kill Guan Qi first. Although he was injured, he was still a strong man in the sea. Guan Qi could be said to be a strong man in the Sea of Danshan, but under the suppression of his divine power, he was still not his opponent. Boom! Hideo Sheng's eyes were cold. Or thick and cold energy burst out from his body, and then a black shadow emerged behind him. Divine power, 9 eagle claws. Hideo Sheng shouted, and when the breath on his body burst out, his body flew into the air, raised his palm, and grabbed Guan Qi's head. The terrifying power of divine power hit Guan Qi's mind. Not only was his mind impacted, but there was also an extremely terrifying force pressing on his body. This was to make Guan Qi's spirit and body completely shattered. Roar. Faced with this pressure, Guan Qi roared, barely dispersing the pressure of the other party's mind, but the endless innate sword energy that burst out from his body was suppressed by the other party's energy. and the other party's palm fell and moved his feet. But he was still a step too slow. The opponent's ki fell, and a terrifying blood mark appeared on his bronze chest, and blood flowed out. I didn't expect you to break through my divine power suppression. It seems that the concentration of divine power has increased your mind a lot. Hideo Sheng didn't kill Guan Qi with one blow, and his eyes were slightly surprised. But while speaking, his figure quickly came out, and turned into a residual image. Appeared in front of Guan Qi. He slapped his palm and the red cold true energy exploded in his palm. The speed was so fast. Guan Qi, who was in pain, had red eyes. The sword energy on his body surged and punched out. The palms of the two collided, and Guan Qi just wanted to explode, but the opponent's divine power appeared again, and the palm slapped out. Bang! The whole person was shocked by this terrifying force and flew backwards, hitting the rock of the secret room behind him. Pu Kai spurted out a mouthful of blood, but the body stood up, staring at Hideo Sheng fiercely. Not dead yet. Hideo Sheng's eyes condensed, and his eyes became cold. Kill. Then continue to kill. He didn't believe that the opponent could survive his next attack. His body shape changed, and he slapped out again, and the power of divine power continued to burst out, and hit Guan Qi's mind. Roar. This time Guan Qi roared, and this roar was earth-shaking. When the roar broke out, the energy in his body also surged. In conjunction with the roar increased its strength. The huge roar formed a sound wave, which actually blocked Hideo Sheng's divine power for a while. Although Guan Qi had just been hit, he had been concentrating his mind. Previously, he was disturbed when he was concentrating his divine power, so he gave up. At this moment, under the suppression of the opponent's divine power, his divine power condensed faster. After the roar, his divine power, invisible, was initially completed. He practiced the innate invisible sword energy. The sword energy is not invisible, but just a form of silent explosion. In conjunction with his fists and feet, it will burst out with more terrifying power. The divine power was blocked by the opponent's roar. Hideo Sheng's face was furious, and the ki in his body burst out even more terrifyingly, and he attacked again. He took a step forward, and appeared in front of Guan Qi in the blink of an eye. This palm will send you to death. Boom. His palm slapped out with a fierce momentum, and the violent true energy burst out from his palm. But at this time, Guan Qi's divine power did not show, but he activated it invisibly, and a fierce breath burst out from his body. Under the urging of the sword energy, it became even more violent and fierce. I have been beaten by you for so long, and it's time for me to let you know my strength. Guan Qi's body moved instantly, and the innate invisible sword energy in his body burst out from his body to the outside, like a tide, gathering on his palm. Then he stepped forward, his body instantly flew into the air, clenched his palm, and punched out. Boom. There was a shocking explosion, and the whole ground trembled at this moment. A violent force burst out from the place where their fists collided. Bang. Hideo Sheng's figure was shaken back several steps. Guan Qi's figure was also shaken back several steps. But at this moment, Guan Qi's eyes were blazing, and he didn't stop at all. Your strength is just like this. I will beat you to death today. As he spoke, Guan Qi rushed to the other party, laughing wildly, and punched out with a fast speed and fierce punch. You. Hideo Sheng growled. He didn't expect Guan Qi to block his attack and now attack him. His eyes became cold and murderous. Gosh, orc bursting palm. With a low roar, the true energy in his palm turned into a huge gosh orc and went towards Guan Qi. Boom. The two bodies collided with each other. The two retreated, puffed, and both sides spit out blood. But Guan Qi's aura became more violent than before, and he continued to attack, not giving Hideo Sheng a chance to recover. Madman. Hideo Sheng growled, but then his eyes changed. Because Guan Qi had a divine power, this divine power was weak, but it did appear. Die. Guan Qi ignored the opponent's surprise, and continued to attack. The invisible sword energy on his body continued to burst out, destroying the opponent's energy. Finally, he approached the opponent and suddenly picked him up with both hands. The innate invisible sword energy in his body burst out and rushed into the opponent's body. Ah! Hideo Sheng screamed, and his chest was pierced by the innate invisible sword body. Blood flowed. When he screamed, Guan Qi's palm turned into a claw and grabbed the opponent's neck. Crack! brutally twisting the opponent's head off. Chapter 643, Divine Power, Blood Sword Naruto, Divine Power, Vajra Indestructible. The courtyard was filled with a bloody smell, and Guan Qi's body was unstable. He had just been seriously injured in the battle, and sat cross-legged on the ground. The golden plum bottle appeared in his hand. A stream of energy entered Guan Qi's body, and repaired Guan Qi's injuries. After a moment, Guan Qi's expression condensed. This time, recovering from his injuries actually consumed more than half of the energy of the golden plum bottle. It seems that my strength is improving, and the energy consumed will increase. In the future, I can't rely on this method completely. Guan Qi pondered in his heart. At this time, 3 figures appeared in the courtyard. It was Cheng Shifei, Shangwen Heitang and Jiui Heidao. Looking at the 2 corpses on the ground, the expressions of the 3 changed. I'm fine. I have successfully condensed my divine power and stepped into the sea to concentrate. Who is the other party? Although Guan Qi fought with the other party, he didn't know who the other party was. Tai Zuan and Hideo Sheng from Kunlun sect attacked our east pavilion. The pavilion master and deputy pavilion master were stopped by 5 sea concentrated masters. Shangwen Heitang had been investigating the situation of Kunlun sect, so she knew the identities of these 2 people. Kunlun sect, I didn't expect them to move first. The pavilion master and deputy pavilion master are very powerful. They don't need our help. Let's clean up the others first. Guan Qi stood up. The opponent's attack will definitely not only come with these people. At this time, it is probably the biggest crisis that the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion has encountered. Outside Xianshan, 4 men wearing Kunlun sect robes were followed by hundreds of Kunlun sect disciples. The headmaster and his men should have delayed Gusantong and Zhu Washi. Kill them. The East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion will be destroyed today. The 4 leading men shouted in a low voice. Then they rushed into the mountain. Who dares to trespass into my Xian'ai Pavilion? The disciple who was guarding the mountain shouted in surprise. Puff, bang. This disciple's mouth was filled with blood. His chest was hit by a palm from the opponent, and he flew backwards. The other disciples saw this, and their faces changed. Instantly, a signal was sent. Enemy attack. We are no match for them. Retreat. The other disciples of Xian'ai Pavilion quickly retreated behind them. However, their speed was obviously not enough. The 4 people who attacked turned into afterimages and appeared in front of these disciples. The shadows of their palms changed. Bang, bang, bang. The fleeing people were all hit and flew backwards. At this moment, the other disciples of Xian'ai Pavilion had already known the situation. At one time, the sound of bells rang out, and some disciples of Xian'ai Pavilion appeared and attacked the opponent together. Although they were defeated, they still fought. Outside the hall, Gusantong and Zhu Washi heard the sound of bells, and their faces became gloomy. Kunlun sect is advancing in a big way. It seems that you, Kunlun sect, have sent out a lot of people. Gusantong said coldly, while looking at Yuan Zuzi. Since you are going to attack, don't hold back. I just don't know if you don't have many middle-level masters in the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion. Yuan Zuzi said in a calm tone. His words were not just words, but also a test, wanting to test some of the conditions of the East Pavilion of Xian'ai Pavilion. After Xian'ai Pavilion occupied Xianshan, only some masters appeared. He wanted to know something from Gusantong's words. Humph. Gusantong just snorted coldly. His body stepped out. Boom. The terrifying power burst out from his body, and his body began to change under this energy. The true energy in his body was agitated, and a violent true energy swept towards several people crazily. Seeing this, Yuan Zuzi and the other 5 were shocked. He didn't expect that Gusantong would attack first. He looked at the old man with black robe and white hair beside him. Let me experience the strength of the East Pavilion Master of Xian'ai Pavilion. The old man stepped out, and a brilliant light emanated from his cold eyes. Xian'ai Pavilion. The battle record of the East Pavilion Master Gusantong was to fight against the Xianshan sect's headmaster Huo Mufeng. The 2 fought in a tie in the first fight. The specific skills are rarely spread outside, and only know that the opponent has divine power and is covered by a golden body. The power is unknown. Although they don't know Gusantang's strength, they have compared Huo Mufeng. Huo Mufeng's strength was stronger than Yuan Zuzi back then. But he was defeated by Emperor Zhao that year. Even if his strength recovered and returned to the peak, he could only defeat Yuan Zuzi at most. His strength is slightly stronger than Yuan Zuzi. He can fight Gusantang. Of course, today is not a challenge in the martial arts world, but a fight between forces. They surrounded Gusantang and Zhu Wusi. When he stepped on the ground, the cold-looking man beside him moved his feet, and a blood-red light appeared on his body. His hair also turned red under this true energy, which was particularly dazzling. There was a cold light in his eyes, staring at Gusantang closely, with one hand on his waist, which was the hilt of a soft sword. Are you two the only ones going to attack? I think you can attack together. Sensing that he was locked by the aura, Gusantang's expression did not change at all, but he spoke wildly. Hearing Gusantang's words, the two people's expressions became cold and fierce. Gusantang actually looked down on them, looking for death. Xian Zhao Longyan, the white-haired old man in black robe roared, and a terrifying airwave came out of his mouth, forming an airwave towards Gusantang. In this airwave, there was also some spiritual power mixed in, like a sharp blade, attacking Gusantang's mind. And just when this roar appeared, the man surnamed Zhu grasped his hands at his waist. Swish! A blood-colored soft sword appeared in his hand. Gusantang, the one who kills you is Zhu Xiang. The cold man shouted in a low voice, and then attacked instantly. Swish! The afterimage was in place, and the body had already flown into the air, and a sword was slashed out. Divine power, blood sword Naruto. Zhu Xiang, who made the move, knew Gusantang's strength, so he made the move with divine power. Suddenly, the sword light was like a meteor, emitting a dazzling blood-red light, and slashed towards Gusantang. Combined with the sonic attack of the white-haired old man, he believed that Gusantang had no chance of survival. Divine power, indestructible. Just when the long sword slashed in front of Gusantang, Gusantang shouted in a low voice, and a dazzling golden light emanated from his body. The sharp sword energy like a meteor slashed on the opponent's body. A crisp sound of metal was heard. Not good. The face of the man who made the move changed drastically. He did not expect that his sword could not break the opponent's defense. He had a bad premonition and retreated rapidly. It was so fast to come and go. Want to leave? Is it that easy? While Gusantang was speaking, he opened his big mouth and took a deep breath. All the air around him rushed into his mouth. Then he let out a low roar. The horrifying airwave instantly erupted, like a violent storm, sweeping towards Zhu Xiang who had made the move. Not good. Zhu Xiang, who was retreating, changed his expression. A horrifying bloody aura appeared on his body, and poured into the blood-colored sword in his hand. When he slashed with the sword, he had to cut the airwave first. The sword energy collided with the airwave, forming a horrifying recoil force, and his whole body was shaken back by this force. He fell to the ground, and took several steps back, before he stabilized himself. His face looked extremely ugly. He failed to kill the other party with one blow, and was even repelled by the other party's roar. With your little strength, you want to surround and kill me. Let me show you how strong I, Gusantang, am. Gusantang laughed wildly, and rushed out violently. In an instant, he appeared in front of the white-haired old man. His fist was golden, and he fiercely slammed towards the other's head. Chapter 644. 1 vs 4, 7 shadows and 7 injuries. Arrogant. The white-haired old man's eyes turned cold, and he shouted in a low voice, but his body moved, trying to avoid Gusantang's attack. But when he moved, he felt that his surroundings were actually covered by the opponent's fist, forming a heavy pressure. This did not give him a chance to move. Seeing that the golden fist was about to fall on his head. Divine power, phantom of the virtual whale. As he shouted in a low voice, a terrifying giant whale appeared above his head, twisting its body, and bombarding Gusantang's fist. The white-haired old man's name is Zuquan. When he condensed the divine power, he saw a giant whale swimming in the sea. Feeling its power, he made the divine power appear in the form of a virtual whale. Of course, the virtual whale is huge, and it takes a lot of true energy to condense it. At that time, Zuquan's true energy in his body could not condense a real giant whale. So he changed his mind and formed a virtual whale phantom. This is a kind of spiritual attack. With the powerful divine power of the giant whale, it impacts the opponent's mind. It can definitely shock the opponent. Bang! Gu Santong's mind was hit. But it was only a delay. Gu Santong had been imprisoned in the dungeon for 20 years. His mentality and mind were so strong that ordinary people could not compare. Of course, the fight between masters was just a blink of an eye. The white-haired old man took this opportunity to escape from Gu Santong's fist suppression. Boom. The huge fist fell on the ground. The gravel on the ground splashed, and the terrifying power formed a tide of air and spread around. It collided with the air to form a ripple. Very good. Gu Santong laughed wildly. These people still have some ability. Seeing Gu Santong's appearance, the faces of the 5 people became gloomy. Unexpectedly, the previous attack did not cause any trouble to Gu Santong, and the opponent counterattacked. Boom. At this time, Yi Mui, the second elder of Kunlun sect, who was next to Yuan Zuzi, took action. The aura on his body surged, and the terrifying true energy swept out. The true energy was green, forming a huge green giant hand. Divine power, Kunlun sky lifting hand. Yi Mui practiced the Kunlun school's unique martial arts, the Shianai Sutra, which contained a sky lifting hand, which was powerful and could suppress everything. Back then, Yi Mui relied on this divine power to pacify the entire frontier alone, and his reputation spread to the interior of the country. Together, attack, kill. As he spoke, he rushed out, raised his palm, and a huge amount of true energy condensed in his palm, and suddenly slapped it towards Gu Santong. That's interesting. Looking at the opponent's attacking palm, Gu Santong's originally calm eyes flashed with a gleam of light. The strength of the 2 people before did not make him feel any pressure. Kill. The virtual whale roared. The white-haired old man also moved at this moment, and the virtual whale appeared, condensed on his fist, forming a terrifying true energy storm, and heading towards Gu Santong. And there was a faint sound of the virtual whale roaring in his fist. The sound was harsh, affecting people's consciousness. Key power, plus sound waves. He wanted to restrict Gu Santong. Kill. The man surnamed Zhu's face also turned cold. He shot out like a bloody ghost and appeared in front of Gu Santong. The long sword burst into blood and blood. When the sword was slashed, the blood shook the sky. The 3 people joined forces and the momentum was very huge. Break it for me. Gu Santong's body was shining with golden light. The whole person turned into a huge golden figure. His fists danced and emitted brilliant fist power. There was no need for anything else. He just needed to defeat 10 skills with one force. The terrifying power burst out from his fists. His fists were like golden mountains, colliding with the attacks of the 3 opponents. Bang, bang, bang. After a violent collision, the attacks of the 3 were all blocked by the golden fists. The 3 people who were blocked retreated together. They looked at Gu Santong with solemn eyes. They didn't expect that the combined strength of the 3 of them was easily blocked by Gu Santong. This power is not enough. Both of you come together. Gu Santong looked at the remaining Yuan Zuzi and said wildly. As he spoke, his body shook, and a terrifying ki continued to burst out from his body. The ki continued to flow, as if it was not affected by anything. This is the horror of the Vajra indestructible divine art. Although Gu Santong had fought with Huo Mufeng before, he failed to defeat him, because Huo Mufeng was not weak. Seeing Gu Santong so rampant, Yuan Zuzi's face changed. He looked at the white-haired and white-bearded old man behind him. You go, I'll deal with Zhu Washi, the white-haired old man said. His eyes were looking at Zhu Washi. Gu Santong's defense exceeded their expectations, so he asked Yuan Zuzi to take action. Do it. Yuan Zuzi shouted. His palms turned into claws, and a ki flowed between his fingers, forming a sharp blade, attacking the vital points around Gu Santong. He wanted his ki to tear Gu Santong's defense apart. Facing Yuan Zuzi's attack, Gu Santong snorted coldly, and the golden light on his body collided. He directly used his body to resist the opponent's palm ki blade. Ding ding ding. The air blade scraped against Gu Santong's body and still made a crisp metallic sound. It couldn't break the opponent's defense at all. Yuan Zuzi's expression remained unchanged. Attack together. The other 3 attacked Gu Santong at the same time. Sword light, Fist shadow, claw shadow, sound waves and golden light kept colliding. Several figures crossed like lightning and burst out amazing wind ripples. For a moment, it was impossible to see what was going on inside. You can't break the Pavilion Master's Vajra indestructible divine art at all. You have no chance of winning. Zhu Washi looked at the white-haired and white-bearded old man and said, the Vajra indestructible divine art was perfectly displayed on Gusantang. The defense was invincible. Divine power, 7 shadows and 7 injuries. At this time, Yuan Zuzi shouted in a low voice and slapped out with a palm. The black air energy covered his palm and penetrated the golden light. It was imprinted on Gusantang's body. The palm slapped out 7 times in a row, and suddenly the 7 air energies were like sound waves, forming vibrations and rushing into Gusantang's body. Bang! Gusantang's face changed, and his body was shaken back by this energy. Opportunity. Blood sword. Explosive kill. The man surnamed Zhu shouted, and the long sword in his hand burst out a stream of sword energy. The sword energy was dazzling. Bloodlight rushed to the sky, piercing everything, and appeared in front of Gusantang. Gusantang's eyes flashed red, and he did not pay attention to the energy in his body, but raised his palm and grabbed the long sword that was chopped. The long sword was instantly caught in his palm. Then he exerted force and grabbed the other party's body, but did not get close, but punched the other party's body. Bang! The body of the man surnamed Zhu was shaken and flew backwards, spurting out a mouthful of blood. The direction of flying was exactly the direction of Zhu Washi. Zhu Washi showed a sneer at the corner of his mouth. His body suddenly moved, so fast that he appeared behind the other party in a blink of an eye, and grabbed his palm. The suction power burst out instantly. The other party's body was caught in his hand. The terrifying suction force burst out instantly. The man surnamed Zhu showed a look of fear on his face, and the power in his body rushed into Zhu Washi's body like a tide. Bang! In a few seconds, the power in his body was completely absorbed by Zhu Washi, and then the energy in his palm burst out. With a bang, the cold-looking man Zhu's iron turned into a piece of flesh and blood in Zhu Washi's palm. Chapter 645. Using the arm as a sword. Terrifying sword intent. Blood flew everywhere. This was the first time someone was killed in the fight. It was Zhu Washi and Gusantang who made the move. At this time, Zhu Washi fell to the ground. His long hair was loose, his robes were fluttering, and an extremely domineering aura rose from him. He looked at the old man with white hair and white robes. The old man wanted to move just now, but his speed was not as fast as his, so he could not stop Zhu Washi's move. On the other side, Gusantang's eyes fell on the face of Yuan Zuzi of Kunlun sect. I didn't expect you to be able to use penetrating ki power to injure the internal organs. Gusantang said coldly. The Vajra indestructible divine art he practiced was an external force defense. His body was not yet indestructible. He was a little careless just now, allowing the opponent to get close to him. He exerted force with his palm and slapped 7 palms in a row. His internal organs were injured. Yuan Zuzi's face was gloomy. He had been hiding before, preparing to hit the opponent hard, but he didn't expect the opponent to take his palm hard. From the situation, it is impossible to tell how badly the other party was injured. The other party's internal ki was terrifying. The other Zhu Washi was even more frightening. He could actually absorb other people's cultivation. This person made them more afraid than Gusantang. Brother, send me another person. Zhu Washi looked at Gusantang and said, brother. This time, Zhu Washi's address made everyone's expression change. Cheyenne Pavilion, East Pavilion, the Pavilion Master and the Deputy Pavilion Master were actually brothers. They didn't find out this. Go and get rid of the white-haired old man. They should have no other masters. I will suppress these 3 people. Get rid of the old man, and you can absorb the cultivation of these 3 people. Gusantang said. The voice fell. Gusantang stepped on the ground. He rushed out violently. He had fought with the other party before. In fact, he wanted to see if there were any other masters of the sea who could concentrate their minds. Now it seems that there are none. Then kill them. Boom, the airwave rolled, and the golden energy in the fist attacked the 3 people. The fist was overbearing, and the speed was incredible. Gu Santong himself has extraordinary talent and is a martial arts fanatic. After arriving in this world, his strength is still improving. The best in the world, Gu Santong knows the power absorption method, but rarely uses it. However, he was able to fight with Zhu Wuxi, a master who absorbed the power of the 8 major sects, which shows how strong his own strength is. Although his internal organs were injured, it did not affect his fighting. The fists were earth-shattering and fell like an overwhelming force. Yuan Zuzi and the other two changed their faces and felt a strong sense of crisis in their hearts. After looking at each other, the 3 people quickly dispersed. It was just that they ignored Gu Santong. Gu Santong not only knew the Vajra indestructible divine art, but also the unique skills of the 8 major sects. Boom, the moment the fist landed, countless gravel and dust rose up, and the 3 people's vision was blocked for a while. At this moment, Gu Santong's figure turned into a residual shadow and appeared in front of Zuquan, who was white-haired and black-robed. His palms turned into fingers, and the powerful Vajra finger instantly burst out with energy and quickly pointed at the opponent's head. The white-haired old man in black robe changed his expression and moved his body to avoid the finger, but Gu Santong's fingers changed into claws and grabbed the opponent's shoulder. The power absorption method exploded instantly. Gu Santong was injured and wanted to recover from his own injuries. The terrifying suction force exploded instantly. The white-haired old man in black robe felt the true energy in his danshin instantly poured into the opponent's palm, and the whole person twitched. At the moment when the true energy disappeared, Gu Santong's 5 fingers were long claws and directly pierced the opponent's head. At this time, the dust cleared. Yi Muwei and Yuan Zuzi only saw Gu Santong with his fingers inserted into Zuquan's head. Zuquan's body shrank and his energy disappeared. Originally, his hair was only grey and his face was full of spirit, but now his face was colorless and his spirit disappeared. His power was also absorbed. Yuan Zuzi's face changed. Kill. Yi Muwei rushed out beside him at this moment. The huge true energy in his palm condensed, and the sky-lifting thunderbolt palm exploded instantly, and the terrifying energy burst out from his palm. The surrounding air was pressed under his palm and made a banging sound. Gu Santong looked stern, raised his palm, and blasted it out. It collided with the other party's palm. At this moment, Yuan Zuzi continued to rush towards Gu Santong. The shaper-shifting phantom appeared in Gu Santong's palm at a very fast speed, and landed on Gu Santong again. The palm rotated, and continuously slapped out the palm force. The palm force formed a terrifying ki wave, and went into Gu Santong's body. But this time his ki entered Gu Santong's body, and seemed to be dissolved in an instant. Gu Santong practiced very hard. He also knew the method of Huagang. Yuan Zuzi's face changed. His body retreated rapidly. Bang! Gu Santong shook off Yi Muwei's attack with a palm, and his body shot towards Yuan Zuzi. The speed was so fast, and the violent power swarmed out, suppressing Yuan Zuzi's body. In the blink of an eye, his palm landed on the other party. The terrifying suction force exploded instantly. The true energy in Yuan Zuzi's body surged towards Gu Santong. You are looking for death. You underestimated my Kunlun and my Geixing. At this time, a thunderous voice sounded in the square outside the hall. Before the voice fell, the great elder of Kunlun sect, Geixing, raised his right arm, used his arm as a knife, and slashed out with a knife. A dazzling knife light like a stream of silk rose from the ground and slashed towards Gu Santong with the force of splitting rivers. Gu Santong's eyes condensed. He put down Yuan Zuzi, and the golden light around him surged, and he punched out. Colliding with the slashing knife energy, boom, the airwaves rolled, and the airwaves between Gu Santong and Geixing were all dispersed, forming a vacuum area. A deep pit appeared under Gu Santong's feet. The opponent's knife just now was extraordinary, and just when Gu Santong collided with the knife energy, Yi Muwei raised his palm and sucked Yuan Zuzi over. However, at this time, the ki in Yuan Zuzi's danshin had almost disappeared, and his body was weak, and he had no strength to fight. He took out a pill and swallowed it into his mouth to recover some strength. He looked at Gu Santong with horror. He thought that Gu Santong was not as scary as Zhu Wuxi before. But now they found that the real horror was Gu Santong. This Gu Santong could not only transform the power, but also absorb the power. You go kill them, I'll deal with him. Gu Santang took a step, and his figure rose from the ground, and his body was covered with golden light. The Vajra indestructible divine art consumes too much true energy, and it is impossible to use it endlessly in fighting with strong men. However, he just absorbed the power of Tusi concentrated strong men, and the Vajra indestructible divine art can still continue to operate. At this time, the white-haired and white-robed Gui Yixing burst out with a terrifying sword intent. A sword shadow appeared behind him. The divine power of this old man is the power of the sword. See if my sword can cut your indestructible body. As the old man in white robe spoke, his arm became a sword and slashed out again. Gu Santang's fist exploded, and the fist exploded to shatter the sword energy, but when he shattered the sword energy, he heard the sound of swords ringing in his ears. The opponent's sword energy was not only powerful, but also fast, rushing over, tearing the air, and whistling. Gu Santang's body was shining with golden light. Resisting the sword energy, his body rushed forward and attacked Gui Yixing. At this time, Zhu Washi made a move and came in front of Yimui with one hand and 5 fingers bent into a claw, grabbing his chest. Yimui stretched out his palm and grabbed it with the same palm. But at this time, Zhu Washi's body changed, turned around and appeared in front of Yuan Zuzi on the hand, and slapped Yuan Zuzi with his palm. Bang! Yuan Zuzi vomited blood and flew backwards. He hit the ground, his head was dizzy, and he lost consciousness. He didn't know whether he was dead or not. Chapter 646, Sacrifice of Spirit, Final Blade, taking over Kunlun. Yimui, who made the move, changed his expression. His palms turned into claws, and he took a series of steps. The blood in his palms surged, and the energy between his fingers was sharp, and he grabbed towards Zhu Washi's head. Zhu Washi snorted coldly. He slapped his palms, and collided with the opponent's claws. But when the palms collided, the opponent changed his claws into palms, and a hot energy was in his palms. The palm power was like fire, and went to Zhu Washi's palms, without touching Zhu Washi's arm at all, not giving Zhu Washi the opportunity to absorb his power. From the situation just now, it is impossible to absorb other people's internal power without getting close. Zhu Washi's face condensed slightly, and the true energy in his palms burst out. He just absorbed the power of a C-concentrated strongman, plus the previous absorption of a C-concentrated strongman. His own power is not ordinary. You underestimate me too much. Do you think I really only know how to absorb power? Boom. The energy in his palms burst out, and a dragon-shaped true energy burst out in his palms, forming a terrifying energy, and heading towards the opponent. Bang. The two men's ki surged. Yimui's eyes condensed, and he wanted to continue to attack. But Zhu Washi suddenly turned into a residual image, and appeared in front of him. He grabbed his arm with his palm. A suction force instantly erupted. Seeing this, Yimui's face changed, and he raised his left hand, directly cut off his right arm with his true ki, and retreated rapidly. Chop off the flame knife. While retreating, he slashed with his palm, and the true ki flame knife went towards Zhu Washi. What a ruthless man. Zhu Washi didn't expect that the other party would directly cut off his arm. In this way, he avoided his suction method. Kyankan moved his body to avoid the knife, and was in front of the other party again. The palm fell on the other party's head with a claw. Yimui's face changed greatly. The other party was too fast, and his reaction could not keep up with the other party. Divine power, sky-lifting hand. Now the divine power erupted again, and the terrifying power erupted in the center of his palm. However, when he was running his power, blood sprayed from the broken right arm, making his face pale. Bang. Zhu Washi's divine power was also activated. Zhu Washi aimed to improve his own strength. The divine power he condensed was mainly based on the power absorption method, which produced a suction force. Everything around him was heading towards him. His palm fell, but it was offset. Then a suction force appeared. Yimui's body was out of control and was heading towards Zhu Washi. HMPH, if you want to deal with me, Chyanaya Pavilion, you should first figure out our strength. If you are too blind, you will die. When Zhu Washi spoke, he raised his hand and grabbed Yimui's neck. I think you should have something else to say. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. If Yu Xian'an Pavilion appears, my Kunlun sect will disappear sooner or later. If we don't fight for it, we must fight for a glimmer of hope. When Emu Wei spoke, his eyes were fierce. Zhu Wash's expression changed, his palm loosened, and his body quickly retreated. Bang! As soon as Emu Wei was released, his body exploded directly. The huge force of the self-explosion shocked Zhu Washi and sent him flying backwards. The blood in his body surged, and the explosion at close range caused Zhu Washi's blood to churn. Boom. On the other side, Gu Santong and the white-haired old man Gui Yixing separated. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to be like this again. Gui Yixing looked a little lonely. This time, their Kunlun sect was defeated again, and the defeat was even more miserable. His eyes turned cold. The sword intent around him condensed. At this moment, Gui Yixing's spirit and energy were all condensed. His face turned pale, and his aura quickly disappeared. But Gui Yixing's eyes became extremely bright. The body that lost its spirit and energy gave off a terrifying sword intent. With the appearance of the sword intent, the surrounding weather also changed, and an extremely depressing atmosphere appeared. This sword intent. Gu Santong's eyes shrank, and this sword intent made him feel a strong sense of oppression. The opponent's sword was extremely powerful. Gu Santong, this is my strongest attack. I really want to see if I can break your diamond indestructibility. Gui Yixing's eyes were full of brilliance, staring at Gu Santong closely. The gleam of light flashed in his eyes, revealing a dead look and unwillingness. Then let me see your sword. Gu Santong sensed the attack, and his aura began to change. He pushed the Vajra indestructible divine art to the extreme. The true energy in his body disappeared like a tide. The fist in his hand was also covered with golden energy. Blocking is not to attack. If the opponent uses all his strength, then he must burst out with the strongest attack and send the opponent to his death. At this moment, Gu Santong's mind is also unblocked. The strength of this old man is stronger than the previous four. He puts pressure on him, but he knows that as long as he can withstand this attack and kill the opponent, his thoughts will be clear, and he may be able to comprehend that step. At this time, the blood and ki are stabilized, and Zhu Washi looks over here. He senses the power of the opponent's sword. Gui crossing cuts with a sword. Gui Yixing shouted in a low voice, raised his arm, and a terrifying sword intent gathered on his arm. His figure flew into the air and his arm became a sword. Cut with a sword. Swish. A terrifying, sharp and surging sword energy appeared with the intention of tearing everything apart, and it shook the mind. At this moment, the sky and the earth seemed to be dim, and the surrounding air was oppressive like a rainy day. But Gu Santong did not punch immediately. He was feeling the opponent's sword energy. The surging sword energy hit his body fiercely. The Vajra indestructible divine art burst out to resist that power. It was really a constant consumption. It seemed that there was no way to replenish the internal force. It was only consumed. Gu Santong's eyes were fixed on the time when the hand knife fell. He concentrated his mind. The moment the hand knife appeared in front of him. Boom. Gu Santong punched out. The golden fist was like a blazing sun, dispersing everything and colliding with the opponent's sword energy, melting the extremely sharp sword energy in the golden light. The fist and the hand knife collided with each other. Bang! The sword energy protecting the arm was shattered. The arm immediately shattered and turned into a piece of flesh and blood. Gui Yixing's body fell to the ground. His body fell to the ground. It's a pity. Although I broke your defense, it's useless. This is Kunlun's calamity. The Saya code in the air. After a punch, Gu Santong landed on the ground with a single fist, gasping for breath, and blood flowed on his arm. But there was a gleam in his eyes. What a sharp and domineering blow. Thank you. This battle has taught me a lot. I believe it won't be long before I can go a step further. Gu Santong said in a deep voice. At this time, the battle outside Xian'an Pavilion was still going on. However, Gui Hayudeo and Guan Qi joined in and successfully killed the 4 Kunlun masters who had reached the 9 difficulties of heaven and man. The others were fighting among the disciples. Cheng Shifei and Shangguan Haitang led the disciples of Xian'an Pavilion and were counter-attacking frantically. Kunlun masters were killed and injured. You go take over Kunlun sect. Gusantong said to Zhu Washi. Chapter 647. Darkness, Sneak Attack. Gusantong. How is your injury? Zhu Washi looked at Gusantong. It doesn't matter. Take over Kunlun first. After taking over Kunlun, our East Pavilion will unify the entire frontier. In that case, I can enter the interior. Gusantong said. As the head of the East Pavilion, he cannot be limited to the frontier. Fighting with the warriors of the Great Zhao Dynasty is his wish. What's more, after this time, his strength will definitely be further improved. Zhu Washi glanced at Gusantong, nodded and left. At this moment, the square seemed quiet. Gusantong turned and walked towards his courtyard. After Gusantong left, a man in a black robe slowly walked out of the dark. The aura of the black-robed man was restrained and did not leak out at all. This Gusantong and Zhu Washi actually have the skills to absorb people's power, especially the Vajra indestructible divine art that Gusantong practiced. His body defense is invincible and can also dissolve the energy entering the body. It is really too difficult to kill him. The head of the East Pavilion of Chyanaya Pavilion is really scary. The black-robed man murmured. Thinking of this, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Gusantong is injured and seems unable to use the Vajra indestructible divine art for the time being. Perhaps this is a chance to kill him. Thinking of this, the black-robed man showed excitement on his face. If he could kill Gusantong and find the secret book about the Vajra indestructible divine art or the absorbing power technique from him, his strength would surely improve by leaps and bounds. Of course, killing such a strong man is also his honor. This time, the Kunlun faction outside the Great Wall attacked the East Pavilion of Chyanaya Pavilion on the order of the old Sisu. Now the people sent by Kunlun have been completely destroyed and have not caused any harm to the other party. The plan can be said to have failed completely. There is a chance to kill Gusantong. He needs to seize this opportunity. The rivers and lakes are for warriors. If you can't seize such an opportunity, then don't walk in the rivers and lakes. Be an ordinary person honestly. Thinking of this, there is no hesitation. Go in the direction where Gusantong left. The backyard. A courtyard seems very peaceful. The disciples of Chyanaya Pavilion were attracted by the bell and all joined the fight. Now they were summoned by Zhu Washi to Kunlun sect. The remaining disciples were sorting out the bodies left on the ground and cleaning up the bloodstains. Gusantong pushed open the door. But suddenly his hand stopped slightly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Creak. Then he slowly pushed the door open. At the moment of pushing the door, behind him, suddenly, dozens of needle rains with blue light appeared and shot towards his back. Swish, swish, swish. All those blue steel needles shot into Gusantong's back. Gusantong was shocked by this force and staggered into the room. He turned around and looked into the courtyard. A grey man in a black robe holding a cylinder was standing at the door of the courtyard. Sure enough, Gui Yixing's sword intent just now consumed your true energy, and you can no longer use the Vajra indestructible. The man in black looked at Gusantong with excitement in his eyes. Whether Gusantong was injured or not, his strength was terrifying, so he used hidden weapons to sneak attack. The steel needles were all coated with a deadly poison that would kill the enemy instantly. Gusantong's back had been pierced by the poison needle. He was now confident that he could kill Gusantong. Who are you? Your concealment skills are extraordinary. Gusantong looked at the other party and said, if the other party had not just appeared at a close distance, he really could not sense it. The other party's aura was not strong, but he could not sense it, which showed that the other party must have a good concealment skill. Kill me, and I will let you know who I am. While speaking, a sharp flying knife appeared in the palm of the man in black, and the energy on the flying knife flowed, emitting a sharp cold light. As an excellent hunter, he would never put himself in the most dangerous place. So the best skill he practiced was the flying knife. The flying knife in his hand was raised. Gusantong's eyes condensed slightly. The moment the other party raised the flying knife, a breath instantly locked his throat. Although the black-clothed man was not strong, the flying knife was still good. Swish. The flying knife turned into a sharp cold light and flew towards Gusantong's throat. It was very fast. but when it was about to reach Gu Santang's throat, Gu Santang raised his right hand, and the palm of his hand showed gold, and he grabbed the flying knife shot by the other party. Then he squeezed it hard, and the sharp flying knife was directly squeezed into a ball of scrap metal by his palm. You are very careful, but you are still very weak to me. Tell me your origins, or I can give you a whole body. Gu Santang looked at the other party and said coldly, how could you? You were hit by my poison needle. Even if there is a little internal force left in your body, you can't use it. The black-clothed man showed a look of horror on his face. The reason why he was so calm just now was because a previous poison needle had already shot into Gu Santang's body. It was a deadly poison that could corrode the internal organs. Bang! Just as he spoke, Gu Santang's body shook. The dozens of steel needles on his back shot out instantly and nailed to the wall behind him with a bang. They were just caught by my muscles. Gu Santang was talking. He moved his footsteps and appeared in front of the other party in the blink of an eye. He raised his palm and grabbed the other party's throat. Tell me, who are you? The man in black appeared in the East Pavilion of Shyanaya Pavilion at this time. It seems that he knew the time when Kunlun sect attacked the East Pavilion of Shyanaya Pavilion. Then it must be related to Kunlun sect's attack on Shyanaya Pavilion. So Gu Santang didn't kill the other party immediately after he found him, but wanted to lure him to say something. But the other party was very cautious and didn't reveal anything. Gu Santang also knew that he couldn't lure him out, so he took action directly. You won't know. Just as Gu Santang's voice fell, black blood began to flow from the corner of the other party's mouth, and he took poison to commit suicide. The poison was so strong that he was gone in the blink of an eye. What a powerful poison. What is this? Gu Santang thought to himself. Then he began to search the other party, but he didn't find any useful clues, so he put the body aside. He was ready to wait for Zhu Wuxi and the others to come back and let them investigate. He went into the bedroom. He sat cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. The sword intent of Gui Yixing just now was very strong. He needed to recover from his injuries and comprehend what he had just gained from the battle. Jiangnan Jinling City on the building ship. Chen put down the secret letter in his hand. His eyes narrowed slightly. What does this Shanding Gong want to do? Why is he so interested in being an enemy of my Qinglang society? Chen said in a deep voice. He was not worried about the outside of the Great Wall. Gu Santang, Vajra indestructible, and the great power absorption technique complement each other and are not afraid of siege. What's more, there are the unique skills of the 8 major sects, plus Zhu Wuxi, the great power absorption technique, and the great shift of the universe. Encircling and killing them will increase their strength. However, he was very concerned about the appearance of Shanding Gong in the 9 northern counties. Di Wuhao was able to survive and escape under the siege of so many people, which shows his strength. Shanding Gong is one of the giants of the Ministry of Personnel. His strength is absolutely extraordinary, so he needs to be paid attention to. Shyanaya Pavilion East Pavilion, taking over the Kunlun sect outside the Great Wall, becoming the strongest force outside the Great Wall, and rewarding 3 orange lottery cards. Right square bracket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 648 Character Banshayanayu, Arfen's second half of life cultivation card. Kunlun has been taken down, but I don't know what the battle situation was like at that time. I hope to get the battle situation as soon as possible. Chen thought to himself. Chen was not surprised to be able to take down Kunlun, but the battle must be very difficult, and he wanted to know. Kunlun actually chose to take action, so he must have a certain degree of confidence. Chen still wanted to know some of the battle situation. Looking at the 3 orange lottery cards he had just obtained, Chen did not hesitate and drew them directly. Now that he has the lottery cards, he must draw them to see if he can get some characters or treasures. Obtained 1 Hua pill, obtained the character Banshayanayu, and Afen's second half-life cultivation card, HMM. Chen was stunned when he saw this. The rewards drawn this time are not ordinary. Not to mention Banshee Anayu, he also drew Afen's second half-life cultivation card. Let's not talk about Banshee Anayu first, but let's talk about Afen's second half-life cultivation card. In the post-ancient dragon era, Afen was known as the world's fastest sword. In the early days, Fu Hongxue and Lu Xiaojia could only lose in front of him. In the later period, Afen has become a legendary figure of the times. Afen's qualifications are not inferior to anyone. After all, Afen is the son of the first decade of Gulong, so how can his qualifications be poor? He believes that if Afen gets the second half of his life cultivation card, his strength will definitely reach the level of sea concentration. In this way, the strength of Qinglang Club in the 9 northern counties will increase a little. As for Banshee Anayu, he is a figure in Snowflake Goddess Dragon, and his strength can be ranked in the top 4 among the Snowflake Goddess Dragon. He practices the indestructible body of the Golden Buddha. After checking his strength, Banshee Anayu's strength is at the level of sea concentration, but there is no note of breaking. It is estimated that he is not a top sea concentration expert. Hua Heidan, a kind of elixir that can help celestial warriors and have a chance to turn the Danshin into the sea. The harvest is good. Banshee Anayu can be sent to the East Pavilion of Shianaya Pavilion to become an elder. Now that the East Pavilion has taken down the Kunlun sect, it also needs to add some masters and start peripheral expansion. A place outside the Great Wall cannot stop the pace of the East Pavilion. Su Chen thought to himself. At this time, outside the door, Yuan Suan brought Zhuang Zuangji in. A few days ago, Su Chen and Zhuang Zuangji met her father Zhuang Mingfen and asked Zhuang Mingfen to help decompose the gold notes. Su Chen's power is increasing now, and it takes a lot of energy to improve the martial arts. Especially for martial artists below the Danshin Huahei, cultivation resources are the most important. Otherwise, even if the divine power is condensed, the power will be affected. Master Su, my father is willing to help with the exchange of gold notes. Zhuang Zuangji said happily after coming in. The last time Su Chen went to see Zhuang Mingfen, when he proposed this matter, Zhuang Mingfen did not agree immediately, saying that he would consider it. Unexpectedly, Zhuang Zuangji came today and agreed. Or Zhuang Mingfen did not agree at that time, just to use Zhuang Zuangji to agree to this matter. This can help Zhuang Zuangji get closer to him, revealing a kind of shrewdness. However, how can someone who can develop a bank into the third bank be simple? There is another thing. My father got the news that Du Guiwei left Jinling and went to Lingjiang area. Zhuang Zuangji said in a deep voice. You said Du Guiwei was in Jinling city and went to Lingjiang area from here. What does he want to do? Is he looking for Guan Yushan? Su Chen frowned slightly when he heard this. This was something he didn't expect. He had originally thought of letting Guan Yushan secretly help the Qinglang Society in the 9 northern counties. Unexpectedly, Du Guiwei would go to Lingjiang area at this time. This disturbed his plan. If it doesn't work, let Guan Yushan play a guest role in the Qinglang Society first. Su Chen thought in his heart. But why did Du Guiwei know that I was in Jinling and didn't do anything to me? Du Guidao's death is still related to me. Su Chen then murmured. Maybe the status is not equal. Du Guiwei is the great general king, and although the young master is the young dragon chief of the Qinglang Club, he is not yet in a position that the great general king needs to come and see. Zhuang Zuangji said on the side. Hearing this, Su Chen was slightly startled. It is true. The young dragon chief of the Qinglang Club. Perhaps in the 9 northern counties, he can be looked up to, and the younger generation will also pay attention to him. But for you and Du Guiwei, who are not only powerful, but also have a high status in the great Zhao dynasty, people really disdain to meet you. When the time comes, I will let the former general manager send this news out. Your father should not provide this news for no reason. He should have some ideas. Su Chen looked at Zhuang Zuangji and said. He had seen Zhuang Mingfen, a pure businessman, and businessmen are people who focus on interests. He would not tell him this news for no reason. After all, if Su Chen told Guan Yushan about this news, Guan Yushan would owe Su Chen a favor. The favor of the strong is not simple. Of course, Su Chen was also somewhat surprised by Zhuang Mingfen's power. After all, he could actually know Du Guiwa's whereabouts. My father wants to cooperate with the money houses in the 9 northern counties of Xiaolangshao. The model can be the same as in the Lingjiang area. Zhuangji said. Well, are you going to send me money? Su Chen showed a smile on his face. Cooperating with the Zhuangjia money house is beneficial to Su Chen. After all, the money house business is not just about saving money, there are other businesses. This Zhuangjia money house is more operational than them. Our Zhuangjia money house in the Huayuan area was suppressed, so we thought about moving the money house in the Huayuan area to the 9 northern counties, which would also reduce the losses in the Huayuan area. Zhuangji said. Huayuan area, the territory of King Liu. Why would they suddenly suppress your Zhuangjia money house? Hearing this, Su Chen was a little puzzled. Recently, the Liu Palace in Huayuan area was attacked. Liu King began to recruit martial artists, saying that he wanted to clean up the martial arts forces in Huayuan area. Recruiting martial artists requires a lot of resources, so he has set his sights on our banker's bank. Zhuangji replied. Hearing this, Su Chen was stunned. The recent events in Liu Palace in Huayuan area were all caused by Cui Wuhu and Wudu Tangzi. I didn't expect that Liu King would start recruiting martial arts masters to clean up the martial arts forces in Huayuan area for this matter. But then I thought about it and found that there was something weird in it. Although Cui Wuhu and Wudu Tangzi had done something big, it was not enough for Liu King to clean up the martial arts forces in Huayuan area. It should be that Liu King was planning something. It seems that we need to notify Cui Wuhu and others to investigate what Liu King is going to do. Liu King was someone Su Chen secretly knew. Of course Liu King himself didn't know that he had such an enemy. At this time, in the county government of Longbei County, a middle-aged man was sitting on the main seat with a big horse and a golden sword. This person was wearing a brocade robe, with a tall and strong figure, long black hair, a majestic aura, a sharp and unruly look, and exuding a heroic aura. His eyes were looking coldly at Dukang, the new governor of the 9 northern counties. This is the information of the Qinglang Society, which is useless. The only useful person is Su Chen from the Shan sect, but this Su Chen has gone to Jiangnan. You mean, I send people to Jiangnan to catch Su Chen back? The tone was cold and stern. Dukang below trembled all over. The person in front of him was one of the giants of the Ministry of Personnel of the Great Zhao Dynasty, and one of the 3 great dukes of the Great Zhao Dynasty, Duke Xianding. One sentence could decide his fate. 2 updates on Saturdays and Sundays. No need to wait. Chapter 649. Bloody Hand Killer wants to attack Shanman. Dukang was terrified, sweat dripping down his forehead. He stood below with his head down. He had no good idea now. The only open base of the Qinglang Society was the Shanman. But Su Chen of the Shanman had already left the 9 northern counties and was reported to be in Jinling City in the south of the Yangtze River. He racked his brains. Suddenly his eyes lit up. Sir, Su Chen of the Shanman is not here, but the Shanman is here. The person who handles things in the Shanman on a daily basis is named Zhu Zhengwo. He must be from the Qinglang Society. As long as we take down Zhu Zhengwo or the Shanman, we will surely be able to find some clues about the Qinglang Society. Dukang said with a quick mind. Whether it is useful or not, let's say this first. If it is useful, he can deal with the Xianding Duke in front of him, and he can also sit firmly in the position of the new governor of the 9 northern counties. My lord, what Lord Dukang said does make sense. How about I go to Shanman and capture Zhu Zhengwo myself? Behind Lord Xianding, there was a middle-aged man in a black robe. He had a resolute face and a very ordinary appearance, but he also exuded a terrifying aura. This man was Kao Zhen, one of the guest officials of the Ministry of Personnel who followed Lord Xianding to the 9 northern counties. Although this man had an ordinary face, he was ruthless. Before joining the Ministry of Personnel, he had no record of war, but after joining the Ministry of Personnel, he killed a sect with his own strength, and killed everyone in the sect. He was very famous in the Ministry of Personnel at that time, and was called the Bloody Hand Butcher. However, he disappeared in the past few years, and has been in seclusion in the Ministry of Personnel. I didn't expect that he would come to the 9 northern counties with Lord Shanding this time. If guest official Ko takes action, I'm afraid Shanman will really be a river of blood. Dukang below thought to himself. After hearing this, Shanding Gong pondered for a moment and said, you go with Yuan Mu and brings Yu Zhengwo back alive. I want to see how the Qinglang society reacts. Shanding Gong said in a deep voice. I will definitely bring Yu Zhengwo back intact. Ko Zen and another person bowed at the same time. Then the two bowed and walked out of the hall. You go back first and see if there are any other clues. Shanding Gong said to Dukang below. I will go back and send someone to investigate immediately and try to find useful clues. Dukang touched the sweat on his forehead and bowed to leave the hall. He was secretly glad that he had escaped a disaster. There were only 2 people left in the hall. Shanding Gong and an old man in a dark red robe. The old man's face was slightly pale, his eyes were condensed, and there was a coldness between his eyebrows. His hair was not white, but a strange black color, and there was a faint aura flowing between them. From this, it can be seen that the other party is not a kind-hearted person. My lord, Shanman is just an open base of the other party. If Ko Zen removes it this time, then the Qinglang whose open base will disappear, which may become more difficult. The old man said in a deep voice. It doesn't matter. I need such means to let the forces in the Great Zhao dynasty know the means of my ministry of personnel. Recently, 2 sword masters appeared in the Qinglang Hu in the capital. They are very popular and have overshadowed the major assassin organizations in the Jianghu. They have also appeared in Jiangnan. They want to expand wantonly. I will pour some cold water on them. As long as we move, I think other forces will also move and suppress them. After all, the Jianghu is big or small, and there are only so many benefits. No one wants their benefits to be taken away by others. It's just that there is no opportunity. I will give them this opportunity. What's more, the other party has not appeared. I need to force them to show up. Otherwise, if I waste time with them like this, they can consume it, but I can't. I can't stay in the 9 northern counties all the time. What is the attitude of the Qinglang temple? Shanding Gong said calmly and analyzed thoroughly. There was no worry in his words. Qinglang temple, there is no response yet, but the people of Dashan temple are pushing this matter. I will go to Qinglang temple a few more times. I believe that the people of Qinglang club will be suspicious. Qinglang temple will also sense the crisis. Although they are in seclusion, there can't be 2 tigers in one mountain. Qinglang temple is now on the territory of Qinglang club. They can only surrender to Qinglang club to make Qinglang club feel at ease. However, Qinglang temple is the source of tantric Buddhism. How can it be inferior to Qinglang club? So the war is inevitable. Qinglang temple also understands this and allows us to enter Qinglang temple. I guess they also want to test Qinglang club. The old man said softly. Humph, a bunch of bull donkeys, just playing this trick. I hope they can be more powerful. Shanding Gong said coldly. You should also continue to contact Dashan temple. They appeared in the 9 northern counties, so their ideas must be complicated. If Qinglang temple is hesitant, let Dashan temple force them to take action. Shanding Gong said in a deep voice. I understand. At this time, the new governor of the governor's office, Dukang, returned to the mansion. He immediately arranged for strict precautions in the mansion. Then he returned to the study alone. Shanding Gong wanted to deal with Shanman and sent Ko Zen. Once Shanman was bloody, Qinglang Hu would inevitably retaliate, and he, the governor, might be the first to bear the brunt. As long as they fight, who cares whether you are the governor or not? It seems that our governor is very scared. Just when he was relaxing, a low voice sounded in his ears. Dukang raised his head and looked towards the place where the voice was spoken. His eyes showed a look of horror, and he stammered. Qinglang Society, Zhu Yiren. Don't be nervous. I just want to ask the governor, what did you say to Shanding Gong today? And what plans does Shanding Gong have? I think the governor should tell us. After all, the governor doesn't want to die in this governor's mansion like Wen Yifan. Shanding Gong, he is leaving here, but you still have to stay here. Sometimes people need to cherish their lives. Zhu Yiren said coldly. While speaking, a sword intent appeared on his body, condensed out, and the cold sword intent, with murderous intent, enveloped Dukang. In an instant, Dukang felt an extremely cold breath enveloping his whole body. The shadow of death was like a mountain pressing on his heart. His face turned pale and cold sweat ran down. He was nervous before, when he was with Shan Dingong, but now he was scared. Although he had some strength and reached the level of heaven and man, in front of Zhu Yiren, he knew that he could not get out of his sword at all. Speak. Bang. Just when he wanted to speak, Zhu Yiren shouted, and the ki in his body suddenly burst out, all pressing on him. Dukang knelt on the ground. Duke Shanding, send Kao Zhen and Yuan Mu to Shanmen. I don't know much about Yuan Mu, but Kao Zhen once massacred a sect force with blood, and his methods were cruel. They want to bring Zhu Zhengwo back. Dukang, who was kneeling on the ground, said hurriedly. Chapter 650, Intercept, Kill before entering. They are really brave to attack the Shanmen. Governor Du, this time, we, King Lang Hu, have seen your sincerity. I believe that we will get along well in the 9 northern counties in the future. After saying that, Zhu Yiren turned and left. Inside the house, the kneeling Dukang slowly stood up and breathed deeply. Sitting on the sandalwood chair at the desk, he began to ponder. Thinking back to what Zhu Yiren said just now, the meaning was very clear. That is, if he cooperated with the King Lang Hu, then nothing would happen. I didn't expect that in just a few years, the martial arts forces can now threaten the governor. It's really sad. Dukang said with a sigh. When Emperor Zhao founded the country, who dared to do this in the entire Great Zhao dynasty? If you do this, you will only be killed. But since Emperor Zhao went into seclusion and relaxed his control over the martial arts world, the martial arts world began to change. Now it has become like this. How long will your majesty stay in seclusion? Is it true that, as the rumors say, your majesty's seclusion failed, resulting in his inability to manage the affairs of the martial arts world? I wonder if Kao Zhen and the others can come back. Now that the King Lang Society knows that Kao Zhen and the others have attacked the Shanmen, they may not let them come back. It is rumored that the 3 people brought by Shan Dingong are all powerful concentrated masters. If the King Lang Society prevents the 2 from coming back this time, I will join the King Lang Society. Thinking of this, Dukang's expression became peaceful. This is the world of martial arts. The strong are respected. He does not need to blame himself. Everything is for the sake of saving his life. A manner. In a secret room, Li Chenhao is practicing cross-legged. Opposite him, Liu Shengyijian is also sitting cross-legged. The ki in Li Chenhao's body is overwhelming, forming a tide and tilting out of his body. Not far away from him, Liu Shengyijian, the ki in his whole body leaks out, resisting this wave of ki, and quickly circulates his own blood and ki under the wave of ki. Boom. Under the wandering of the ki, a divine aura appeared on Li Chenhao's body. The fist shadow appeared, and the surrounding airwaves seemed to stop instantly. And Liu Shengyijian's body shook, and the true energy in his body was suppressed by this divine power, and he felt a sense of being shattered. But the power of the divine power did not increase, so the sense of shattering continued to suppress Liu Shengyijian. Liu Shengyijian's pursuit of martial arts can be described as ruthless and ruthless. After stepping into the Danshan Sea of transformation, he wanted to see if he could condense the divine power. He practiced the ruthless swordsmanship. Compared with Zeman Chuksu, Yan Shizhen and others, his swordsmanship emphasizes not touching anything except himself. Everything in the world can be killed for the sake of martial arts. The divine power he wants to comprehend is killing. Everything can be killed under one sword. While Li Chenhao was helping Liu Shengyijian condense the divine power, his own divine power was also constantly increasing. Li Chenhao's fist is power, and power is hegemony, so his fist is actually a punch to determine life and death, and a punch to dominate the world. Now that his divine power has been strengthened, he can suppress his divine power, allowing it to be compressed and strengthened invisibly. Once it explodes, it will definitely be earth-shattering. After a while, the 2 of them retracted their auras. I believe that after a while, you will be able to condense your divine power. Li Chenhao looked at Liu Shengyijian and said, it will take some time, but not too long. Maybe before Lord Shanding takes action, I can condense my divine power. Liu Shengyi Jian said. The two stood up. At this time, the passage to the secret room was opened. Zhu Yiren, dressed in green, stepped in. Lord Shanding has taken action and sent people to Shan Gate to capture Zhu Zhengwo. He wants to understand the situation of our Qinglong society and lead us to take action. The people who took action are named Kao Zhen and Yuan Mu. They may be the powerful Sea concentrated masters. Zhu Yiren said. What a good trick. 2 Sea concentrated masters went to Shan Gate. What a good move. This is to let us use our power to intercept them. It seems that the news you got is what Lord Shanding wanted to pass on to us. Li Chenhao said. Compared with Zhu Yiren and Liu Shengyijian, Li Chenhao is the overlord of the Jianghu Power Gang, is the largest gang in the Jianghu, and both means and strength are indispensable. Shanding Gong sent someone to take action. Qinglong, who is the overlord of the 9 northern counties. If this information cannot be found, it will not be the overlord of the 9 northern counties. In this case, I believe that Shanding Guild will be very disappointed. The 3 dragon heads mean that Shanding Gong is testing us. Zhu Yiren said in a deep voice. Is he testing us to know the whereabouts of the 2 people? Li Chenhao said. The 2 people are so powerful that they can concentrate their minds in the sea. The people we are following cannot lock onto their whereabouts. Zhu Yiren said in a deep voice. The strong people who concentrate their minds in the sea have strong spiritual perception, and not everyone can track them. Is this going to compete with us in Shanmen? Li Chenhao frowned slightly. Then they will be disappointed. Now there are 3 strong people who concentrate their minds in the sea in Shanmen. They have no chance of coming out alive. Liu Shengyijian said coldly. Emperor Knight, Future, and Xiaoqiushu have all stepped into the sea to concentrate their spirits. The 3 of them are all the overlords of the Jianghu of an era. After they have condensed their divine power, they cannot be regarded as ordinary sea concentrated masters. Add Dingpeng and Yan Nanshan. They can only go without return. We can't let them reach Shan Gate. Going to Shan Gate is also a blow to us. We must kill them before they step into Shan Gate. You 2 take action and must find their traces before they step into Lingnan County. Send people to kill them. Li Chenhao said in a deep voice. This is a test from the other party. He must pay a heavy price for his test. While speaking, a secret door was opened. A fei, dressed in plain clothes and with a long sword on his waist, walked in. Compared with the previous sharp swordsmanship, the current fei has a restrained look and a calm aura. But when Li Chenhao and the other 2 saw fei, their expressions were stunned. Liu Shengyijian and Zhu Yiren felt a dangerous aura from fei. To be able to make them feel the danger, fei's strength must have entered the sea of concentration. Congratulations. Li Chenhao looked at fei and spoke first. It's just that I took a shortcut compared to the other 2. fei said, and got the second half of his life cultivation card. The cultivation card is not only about cultivation, but also about the understanding of martial arts and life. I met Master Wuhua before. Qinglong Temple wants to cooperate with Shanding Gong, but it has not officially agreed yet. And Wuhua found out that Qinglong Temple may have 3 people who are in the sea of concentration, and one of them is very powerful. Before fei came, he secretly met with Monk Wuhua. 3 strong people in the sea of concentration. This secret Buddhist temple is not simple. It's actually comparable to the strong people in the sea of concentration of Jiangshi League. Li Chenhao had a hint of surprise on his face. Fei, you also have to return to Shan Gate. It just so happens that Lord Shanding has sent people to attack Shan Gate. The 3 of you should go out together and make sure to find the whereabouts of the 2 people who went to Shan Gate. While Li Chenhao was speaking, he told fei the news that Kao Zhen and the other man were going to Shan Gate. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.